Hello, everybody. Hi. How you doing? Good to see you. You know that moment where you accidentally, well, maybe you don't. Maybe it's just me. Every single night, because I completely forget that I have a new intro, I forget that accidentally the music ends right when it needs to. And I almost feel like I'm about to go on the match game or be some game show host, which I probably should have been in another life. But hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I feel like we deserve it. Um, Particularly on my end. Hopefully you all had a decent week. If it was one of those weeks, I hear you. Hello. Hello. Miss Linda, can I be your daughter too? I'll throw on some nail polish. I got some downstairs. I just haven't put it on in a while. All right. Hello, Mandy. Is it Belchick? I think it's Belchick. Hopefully it's Belchick. Hi, Janice. Hello, Shireen. Hello, Lois. Hi, Angie. I see how it is. No, I'm kidding. Hey, Jaded. I'm glad you guys are home. Please let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, all our friends, all our friends. It has been a week. It has been a week for sure. Hi, Sam. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to my nightmare. Da-da-da-da. I think you're gonna like it. Why, hello. Aw, y'all saying hi. I love it so much. Shireen! Is that how it is? I forgot already. I forgot already. That's okay. We love you. We love you anyways. Just you wait. Just you wait. Oh, Elizabeth, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Um, I that's horrible. And I'm so sorry you're going through that. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to any of us, either myself or the mods. We're here for you. The entire community is here for you. Everybody, toss some hugs, some hearts, maybe some milk duds in the chat for Elizabeth. That is really, really hard. I can't say that I know exactly what that's like, but I can. Actually, I can't even imagine. I feel like that'd do a disservice. So I'm so sorry you're going through that loss. Hopefully, we can bring some levity and brevity and insanity to the night, for sure. Um, Look at you all with your hearts. I love it. I love this group. This is definitely a coffee mug. I love it. Baby Yoda in the house. Um, it's not coffee though, so that's okay. Love and hugs. All the hugs. I'm so glad we have an emoji for hugs. We seem to use it a lot more than other places. Oh man. So I know that I've been hitting on, yes, grow. Oh. Hello. 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 I love horns. I love horns. I spent a couple years playing trumpet and then also saxophone, and I love a good set of horns. I'm the guy. This will not surprise anybody now that you guys know me pretty well. I am the guy who, instead of going vacationing with friends during spring break in college, my grandparents were winter birds, and they'd go down to Satellite Beach, Florida, and I'm the guy who went down there to hang out with them, and I went blues and jazz bar hopping with my grandpa. It was fantastic. It was so good. And if I didn't, we ended up going to a place called Lou's Blues, which if you look it up, I think it's still open. It's really cool. But Stephen Thorpe, if you look him up, great music. But also, while Steve Thorpe was playing, the guy who wrote "Lay Down Sally" for Eric Clapton and who played with Eric was there randomly and just came up and played. And you just can't beat that. All for the price of a Coke because I wasn't 21 yet. And my grandfather was observing the rules. in public. Um, yeah, blues is fantastic. I don't have my soundboard up right now, but phrasing. Uh, there's just something about blues and jazz that just hit right, especially like big band as well. Love big band music. Have I heard of Here Come? I have not. Um, so if you have any links or anything, if you all have music suggestions for me, I love listening to new music. 100%. And my personality is that of which if I try it and I like it, chances are I'm going to be in it for a while intensely. I'm in a big old Mest phase, and Mest was the band that let Little Bruce Crime jump off the stage and crowd surf. So, I'm a fan of their music. I have no idea why. I never heard of them until now. Alex Horn Band. Hello, Holly. Welcome in. Welcome to the show. It makes me want to yell, Mel. I actually have this shirt behind me in the closet. I think I've said that already before. Yeah. I didn't get to see him too much. I think that also helped, was that I just we moved around a lot, military brat, so I didn't get to see him all the time. So when I had a chance, I was like, "Yes, please. Yes, please." I think I did it for 2 years, not just 1. Y'all check out Kelly's Corner Shop. She's got a lot of great stuff there. We've gone through that before. I understand wholeheartedly. I had a moment, um, where I was like, "Is this a good idea?" And then I tried to put myself in his shoes, and 1, he's short, obviously, and he wants to see what's going on, and 2, if he's anything like me, which he's a little bit, that by the way, the crowd surfing is totally out of character for him. That is not something he would ever do. He thinks too much. He's too logical. He is Mrs. Bruce Crime to a T. Matthew, on the other hand, he's gonna wait a few more years to go to a concert. Um, is my audio really low? Is it really? Let me know. Yeah, so, but yeah, if I was him, I'd really wanna be kind of closer, and I remember being him. I did not go to that kind of a show, but, the first concert I was ever taken to was by my dad. It was on base, it was in Okinawa, Japan, and it was Air Supply. And I remember standing on some chairs behind the soundboard, and it was just so far back. Not that that was wrong, not that that was bad. That was just, you know, I would have wanted to be up a little closer. So Jamie got sweat on. I'm a man of extremes. You're either in the back or in the front. If you ain't first, you're last, Ricky Bobby. Um, but they were lovely guys. Lovely guys. I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you. They sounded good even then. Um, Speaking of which, Beach Boy was here last night. I did not see them. Him, them, him. Is there 2 still? Courts in session. Welcome to my brain. All right. So before we push on, I think we need to see the top 5. We got some usual suspects in here. Some usual suspects. So, which I'm not complaining about. I think it's great. Ricky Watson with the throne. And on the rocking chair. And the panda suit. Halle Berry, don't worry. Your beanbag's a lot more comfortable. Sandra Oliver with your lovely pillows. Patches, I can see you doing it. Grabbing a fire extinguisher and... Thank you, everybody. Thank you to you 5 for being the first 5 in chat. It's fun to see you guys come in. I try to announce when chat's live. Now, of course, I can really only do that on Twitter and Facebook. which I need to add Facebook to my repertoire. But thank you for being here. Yes, Barry Manilow, I see here. Yes, I know Barry. Hanson. Bop, tip, tap. That is a listen. People give me hell for Hanson, but I don't know why. They have matured with their music, and they've remained reasonably fascinating. And they've stayed pretty. It's just matured with the time. Um, the Bee Gees. You can tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman's man. No time to talk. I finally saw them in 2017 at Rock on the Range in Columbus, Ohio, and holy cow, that number one, that lineup for 3 days was awesome. But man, Metallica, it was amazing, amazing, amazing. Aw, aw. Well, you see, you've made it. You made it in there. Now you stay. Now you stay. I have seen that band 7 or 8 times. I love them. Also, they do a lot of USO tours, and I love Kevin Cronin and Aria Speedwagon. I will listen to them any day, all day. We are, Jill. We are climbing to 10K, and I can give you guys an update if you'd like one. Let's see. Let's see where we be at. Um, we are currently at 9,610. Y'all, in the last 28 days, we've added just short of 1,000. That's awesome. You guys, I tell you a lot that you are quite literally, I mean, without you all, we're not here at all, obviously. But I mean, if you look at the last 28 days, um, actually, let's just look at the last week, okay? And collectively, you all have watched on our channel 11,500 hours of our content. And that is mind-boggling. Just mind-boggling. And I tell you that because just obviously like our mods give a ton of time, even more than that, to the channel. You all spend your time and hang out, and I still don't know why. At least for me, I know why you hang out for Brandi. Brandi's together. She's put together. She's got everything. I don't know why you hang out for me, but thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Um, let's see. What else? What else y'all mentioned? Go Navy. Correct. Go Navy. Yes. Papa Bruce Crime was 36 years Navy. Oh, y'all, I wasn't fishing for woos, as Bowling for Soup would say. I was not fishing for woos, but thank you. Thank you, thank you.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Oh my goodness. So what do we have tonight? Well, we're going to continue on reading the document that we started on Wednesday about Joel Guy Jr. What a fascinatingly terrible individual. There is a reason why I have no problem making fun of him in our thumbnails. By the way, are you liking the change, the updates in the thumbnails? For a while, I was kind of doing the same thing, and then I started just parodying stuff. So, let me know if you like it. If you ever have a suggestion for a thumbnail, whether it's a movie poster or whatever, let me know. Let me know. I like trying to make something out of nothing. So that's really funny to me.
Hello, Poppy.
Also, just a
You're
preemptive.
tearing me apart, Lisa.
Also, I've never felt more accurate with Joel Guy being Gru from Despicable Me. Somebody here, yeah. See, see, one of y'all mentioned it when his picture came up on the voting, and that was it. Like all of a sudden, just Gru, right? And so I'm just gonna have fun with that for a while. I think he deserves it. I feel no. It was you. Good. See, yes. I feel not bad at all about making fun of him. Not in the slightest. So yes, so we're gonna go over that document, a little more of that document. It's obviously long, so we're gonna split up the nights when we have closings. Obviously, closings aren't as long as everything else that we've been going through with Jodi Arias. So I think half and half is good. And then once we get through Jodi, we'll be ready to move on to Joel Guy. And then we're gonna get through that trial, and we're gonna see where Night Court goes. I kind of I had a lot of great suggestions. Talked to a few of the mods and stuff, and I love doing the trials. I love doing throwback stuff, but I don't know if we have to do it every time. And you know that I'm a bit of a variety show, sideshow kind of a guy. And I think I might put it up to a poll, but I think you guys do trials all day, and maybe you're ready for something a little bit different at night. I could be wrong, but I think a poll might be good. So we might do that. Maybe not a poll on YouTube. We might do a poll via Linktree, again, like we did the last time. But we will see. Um, we will see what to do. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna take a break and cut it in half with the quiz. And so the Friday night court quiz is obviously tonight. I believe that there's 14 points up for grabs tonight, and the theme is cult, cult, cult. It was so much. Well, it wasn't exactly fun finding questions and answers, but it's interesting to me. It's like a concentrated version of trying to figure out why people behave in the way that they do. Um, so yeah, so that's happening too. And then yeah, we're gonna continue on with the closings. Juan is in the middle of his closing, but yes. So hopefully, I told you guys on Wednesday what the quiz topic was on. Maybe you guys took a look at some stuff. Maybe you already are experts. Maybe you're in one. If you are, blink twice. I didn't see anybody blink, so I think we're okay. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into the document here. Um, I am going to edit this layout. I think I would have done this already, but why? Why do it already? Why not just All right, let's see here. Okay. Wow, that didn't work. Oh, they're right. Well, nope, nope. Sure didn't work at all. Oh, okay, that's better. No, it's not. Sorry, everybody. This is real professional of me. Okay, here we go. Let me toss the banner on just because I don't know what's coming. You'd think I would, but I like experiencing these things with you. I went through some of it. Okay. KCSO Officer Edward Wassman, a digital forensic examiner, testified that he responded to the scene to collect a laptop, a Microsoft Surface Pro, that was found in an upstairs bedroom and an attached external hard drive. He said that the laptop was, quote, in the middle of the bed, was unlocked, and was running a Samsung application. When he hovered the mouse over the application, the laptop displayed a Gmail address connected to the application. The laptop was also running BitLocker, which he described as a Microsoft security tool that keeps anyone that doesn't know a password to the BitLocker encryption from looking at the hard drive. When he began the data extraction, the computer restarted and required a password or facial recognition to access the hard drive. Because the laptop was BitLocked, he was unable to view the data on the hard drive. That's fascinating to me that a program like BitLocker, which I understand to be effective, keeps law enforcement out. Um, All right. Officer Wassman collected a Dell Inspiron? Who knows? Desktop computer from the downstairs of the victim's residence, which was able to perform a data extraction on the computer. He discovered that on November 26th, 2016 at 12:15 p.m., 7 USB devices were connected at the same time to this computer, which seemed to be a significant event. I'd say so, although I might have 7 connected to mine right now. He found a Google search for sodium percarbonate on November 27th, 2016. That's the day after, at 8:05 a.m. And a deposit transfer confirmation, a deposit transfer validation, an account summary, and a services login for a Capital One 360 bank account on November 27th at 10:49 a.m. This guy should have just put up a big old. He should have just used my neon sign saying I did it. Um, Jeez, it really speaks to his ego and how much he believed that he was going to be fine and get away with it. Adam, welcome in. I don't think 80s Music Man snuck in. I haven't seen it anyways, but I say this to all of you coming in.
Welcome to the party, pal.
All right. Officer Wassman performed a data extraction on 2 Samsung Galaxy cellular telephones. So in the trial, we're going to be hearing some about cell phones all the time. It's so much fun. On the first one, enclosed in a pink case, he found text exchanges between the owner of the device and Joel Michael. The last use of that device was on November 25th, 2016 at 5:12 p.m. On the second cellular telephone, enclosed in a black case, he discovered a message from U.S. Bank on November 27th, 2016 at 9:38 a.m., alerting that your card 5773 was charged $1,025 at Bursar operations. Another message from U.S. Bank 2 minutes later read your card 5773 was charged $2,051.03 at Bursar operations. Wow. Wow. A third message at 9:41 a.m. read your card 5773 was charged $1,589.78 at Bursar operations. Upon further investigation, Officer Wassman determined that Bursar operations was associated with LSU. The state also offered an account statement from Mrs. Guy's SunTrust Bank account via affidavit, which statement showed a check card purchased at Submeter One LLC in Louisiana for $3,090 on November 28th, 2016. He's just passing it out. Detective McCord testified that he learned from Miss Tyler that the defendant had stayed at the victim's house for Thanksgiving. A Walmart receipt was located in the upstairs hall bathroom showing purchases made on November 26th at 3:35 p.m. of items recovered from inside the residence. Detective McCord obtained the Walmart security camera footage from the times marked on the Walmart receipt in an attempt to determine who made the purchase. The description that Miss Tyler gave of the defendant's vehicle matched the vehicle seen on the Walmart video being driven by the person who made the purchases, later identified as the defendant. In the video, the defendant, who had what appeared to be bandages covering injuries on his right and left hands, was seen You remember the bacitracin, zinc, all that stuff last time? Purchasing items from the first aid section that were consistent with the items found in the upstairs hall bathroom. Officers recovered a Walmart receipt from Mrs. Guy's purse dated November 26th at 12:18 p.m., listing items purchased that were consistent with the groceries in the foyer. Detective McCord obtained video footage from Walmart of Mrs. Guy's purchasing the groceries, and in the video, Mrs. Guy appeared to be wearing the clothing that was piled at the top of the stairs and carrying the purse and wallet that were found on the table in the Eden kitchen. Detective McCord obtained an arrest warrant for the defendant and issued a "Be on the lookout" (BOLO) notice detailing descriptions of the defendant and his vehicle. Vigilant Solutions, a license plate recognition software, tracked the defendant's vehicle driving through Mississippi, capturing images of the vehicle on November 28th at 12:31 a.m. CST in Meridian, Mississippi. November 28th at 1:05 a.m. CST in Heidelberg, Mississippi. November 29th at 7:08 throughout Mississippi. Detective McCord said that on November 29th, he was contacted by Academy Sports in response to an attempted firearms purchase at their store by the defendant. Detective McCord stated that he believed he received. Do you believe that you received? Okay. The alert shortly after the defendant attempted the purchase. Jesse P., thank you for gifting a membership. And Franco, you picked that membership up, man. Congrats and welcome back to the cult. So it's appropriate that we're doing cults tonight for trivia. Petrified, you're not late. You're right on time. I think we're only a few paragraphs in, so you're good. Okay. Lieutenant Scott Henning, a supervisor in the homicide division of the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, that is a mouthful, phrasing, testified that he assisted in arresting the defendant on November 29th, 2016, 3 days later. After the defendant was transported to the police office, a crime scene technician photographed him in Lieutenant Henning's presence. Lieutenant Henning noticed bruising and an abrasion or burn type injury on the defendant's upper right arm, scratches on the back of his right elbow, scratches and bruising on his upper legs, bruising and red marks to his back, injuries to his right and left thumbs, a slice to the inside of his left thumb and on his right hand, on it, yeah, on his right hand, and scratches to both hands, a wrist, and both palms. Wow. Wow. I'm out. Lieutenant Henning had the defendant's vehicle impounded and obtained a search warrant before processing it for evidence. In the floorboard of the passenger seat, he found Ziploc bags containing various loose pills, medication. In the trunk, he found a large red No. Y'all, I can't handle all this gasoline stuff. What is happening? All right. So he found a large red gasoline can, a meat grinder, a kitchen appliance, a large metal bowl, and a mixer type thing. Sir, I'm going to need you to watch Emerald. Figure out what you're talking about. A second a second gasoline can was found under the floor of the trunk with the spare tire. Also in the car, he found a McDonald's receipt. Oh, thank God. Couldn't possibly be for gasoline. From Trenton, Georgia, a receipt from Knoxville Walmart dated November 24th, 2016, and a Capital One Bank ATM receipt from a location in Baton Rouge dated November 29th, 2016 at 11:48 a.m. Federal Bureau of Investigation, in case you don't know, FBI, agent Gary Coleman. His name, I bet you it's Jerry. I don't care. I still want to hit this button.
What you talking about, Willis?
I'm calling him Gary. Oh, sorry, man. Yes. Gary Coleman, assigned to the New Orleans Violent Crimes Task Force, testified, what you talking about, Willis? That he assisted the KCSO in their investigation of the defendant. I love this show. On December 1st, 2016, he went to an Ace Hardware store in Napoleonville, Louisiana. They could have stopped at Napoleon. Why had the never mind. Approximately 25 to 35 miles outside of Baton Rouge, and obtained video surveillance footage from November 7th, 2016. The video showed a man in a white t-shirt and gray shorts purchasing, quote, a jug of something. Probably gasoline at this point. Retired FBI Special Agent Robert King testified that in November 2016, he worked in the Violent Crimes Unit of New Orleans Baton Rouge office and assisted in arresting the defendant on November 29th. He obtained security camera footage from Lowe's in Gonzales, Louisiana, showing the defendants making two purchases on November 11th. Special Agent King obtained security camera footage from a Home Depot in Baton Rouge and two receipts for transactions made on November 18th. One for the purchase of a 1.5, no gallon talk, 1.5 gallon sprayer and a 32-ounce bottle, and the other for two 12-inch brown cords and two digital HDTs. Special Agent King also obtained video footage of the defendant at an Academy Sports on November. This was November 18th, 19th, and 29th. On November 18th, the defendant looked at firearms, ammunition, and electronics. According to the receipt, the defendant purchased United Cutlery, USMC. On November 19th, the defendant returned to the store with a bag, walked down the same aisle and section where he had been on the previous day, picked up a different item, and made an exchange or return of some type of knife or blade. Finally, Special Agent King obtained video footage from a Walmart in Baton Rouge that showed the defendant purchasing two blue tote containers on November 21st. I'm pretty sure that sells it. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so this fella's name's Michael McCracken. I don't know why that's funny. It shouldn't be funny. Michael McCracken. It's still funny. Testified that he lived in Baton Rouge from 2006 through 2015, had known the defendant from high school and college, and was a roommate with him for a period of time. The defendant attended his first semester of college. Oh, y'all should know that this happened in Tennessee. He was going to school, um, I believe, in Louisiana, LSU. Now I'm questioning myself, but that means that's why I think it's funny. It's not the right thing. It's not the right first name, but here we are. Um, he'd known the defendant from high school and college and was a roommate with him for a period of time. The defendant attended his first semester of college at George Washington University before attending LSU beginning in 2007. Mr. McCracken said that on December 10th, 2016, he received a telephone call from the defendant who was in the Baton Rouge jail. A portion of the call was played to the jury, during which the defendant told Mr. McCracken why that he believed that, quote, we genuinely had a very, very realistic chance of being happy if I got around to doing that. And that, quote, I pretty much effed everything up. The defendant stated, quote, tell me I'm an effing idiot. Tell me why did I do this? During another portion of the call, the defendant told Mr. McCracken that his rent for his apartment was prepaid through August. When Mr. McCracken asked how the defendant managed to pay the rent, the defendant replied that one of the last things that his mother did was to pay the rent. Rude. I am not. I wish that I was. I'm clever, but not that clever. Tell me why he ain't nothing but a heartache. All right. During cross examination, Mr. McCracken said that he first met the defendant when they attended boarding school together at the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts. He and the defendant were roommates at the boarding school. And after the defendant enrolled at LSU, they became roommates again. This is not a fella that I'd want to room with again, but even without the crime thing going on, he estimated that he and the defendant lived together for approximately 5 years of their 10-year friendship, and that he considered the defendant his best friend during that time. Mr. McCracken said that he never met the defendant's father and met the defendant's mother only once, despite their living only an hour away in Luling. If I mispronounce any of these, y'all, you can just virtually smack me. That's okay. Um, that's fine with me. I'm gonna say Luling and Hope, which really just it's one vowel away from just a town that laughs all the time. He did not know that the defendant had sisters and was not aware of the defendant's receiving communication from any family members other than the telephone calls from his mother. The defendant was socially awkward, and after high school, he became increasingly withdrawn and would stay in his room up to days at a time. Oh, the defendant had friends in high school and early in college, but had no friends by the time that Mr. McCracken left Baton Rouge in 2015. Mr. McCracken said that the defendant would regularly go to his parents' house for Thanksgiving and some Christmases. He knew that the defendant was traveling to Knoxville for Thanksgiving in 2016. During redirect examination, Mr. McCracken testified that he was surprised that the defendant had never told him, we're getting into the actual trial. We might have hit where we need to stop. Ooh, we gotta hit where we stop. We gotta hit there. Ooh, well, yay. I don't wanna go back into the I don't wanna go into the trial yet. That seems silly because then we wanna watch it. Okay. So that being said. Oh, oh hi. You're here you're back already. I didn't expect that at all. Oh man, all right. So let's hop into this quiz, shall we? We're getting this done a little early, but that's okay. You guys and your McCrackens. I'm telling you what. It's like a whole nother John Thomas. Except he's a witness and we should be nice to him. My last name calls for insults as well. Which not insults, but like funny jokes and names. I can take it, and so I empathize with him. Okay, nobody mess around. I have a quiz to take. I love how serious y'all are. The quiz time. Prison McFlurries. I want to watch that again so badly. Okay. All right. So, in terms of night court quiz party, we're going to go over this again for those of you who might be new, who might have forgotten. You have until the following Wednesday at 8:45 p.m. to submit. The quiz voice has already come into play. To submit your answers using the Google form. No cheating. Quizzes are awarded points based on how many correct answers you submit. 10 correct equals 10 points. At the end of each month, a monthly winner will be crowned and points will be reset. At the end of the year, the 12 winners will face off in an epic trivia challenge. Total points up for grabs tonight is 14, everybody. 14. And here's your leaderboard. The top 42. We actually have more than 42. So you can take a look at that. Top 10, Angie Burr, Lisa Wilmot, Jody Allgood, Holly, City Kitty 865, Linda Kane, Candace Hoff, Kelly 56 2006, Teresa, and Shunka Bacon, the top 10. Can you get the quiz form link? Yes. In fact, True Crime Ranch is putting it in now. Actually, a couple did, which is fine. Just click on the link there for our link tree, and then you know the rest. You know the rest. Also, yes, petrified. That is indeed a bull butter emoji. I was feeling a little froggy the other night. Thought that might be fun for everybody. So Ricky has his own emoji. It's not an open book, but it's on your honor, so I can't, I can't stop you. So yeah. Okay. So the other thing is that if you don't want to type this in, if you don't want to access another page, just write it down. Just write it down and you can enter it later. It's not speed. It's, it's your answers. So it's not who gets it in fastest. Okay. Um, it's not a, yeah. Okay. There was no joke that was going to come out of my mouth after that. That would have been appropriate. Okay. All right. Cult. I had to put this in just because I wanted the heads to move around. I mean, who doesn't like Charlie with a bobblehead? Come on now. Yes, Shireen, thank you. Please do not put the answers in the chat. Please do not put the answers in the chat. You can say them out loud if you want. Unless you have somebody else who's in the room with you playing along. In that case, that's just not nice. All right, here we go. Question number 1. The Brethren, founded by Jimmy T. Roberts, disallows members from using modern conveniences and forbids children from, is it A, speaking, B, looking at members of the opposite sex, C, playing, or D, going to restaurants? The Brethren, founded by Jimmy T. Roberts, disallows members from using modern conveniences and forbids children from A, speaking, B, looking at members of the opposite sex, C, playing, or D, going to restaurants. And if you miss one, I go back through at a faster speed. Which cult is known for its mass weddings, with hundreds of couples married simultaneously in huge ceremonies? As a hint, headquarters are in South Korea. A, Unification Church. B, National Labor Federation. C, Fellowship of Friends. Or D, Birmingham Bathing Cult. Please don't put answers in the chat. All right, and as a bonus point Tell me, within 500 people, how many gathered at that headquarters for a mass wedding in 2009? Ooh. So mass weddings, hundreds of couples married simultaneously. What church is that? Unification Church, National Labor Federation. Um, I just, yep. We're gonna move on. All right. What is it called when the loved ones of a cult member arrange to have that person kidnapped away from the cult and retrained for cult free life? Is it A, decultification, B, deprogramming, C, re education, or D, a typical Friday night? Again, what is it called when the loved ones of a cult member arrange to have that person kidnapped away from the cult and retrained for cult free life? A, decultification, B, deprogramming, C, re education, or D, a typical Friday night? You guys like that one, huh? Number four, the People's Temple Massacre occurred in which South American nation? A, Guyana, B, Brazil, C, Uruguay. Uruguay? We're going with Uruguay. D, Chile. The People's Temple Massacre occurred in what South American nation? A, Guyana, B, Brazil, C, Uruguay, or D, Chile? As a bonus point, tell me within 50 people the number of people who died in the People's Temple Jonestown Massacre. All right, moving on. Numero five. What did the Shinrikyo cult use to attack the Tokyo subway system in 1995? A, radioactive materials. B, sarin gas. C, weaponized illness. Or D, monkeys. Yeah, it sounded better when I typed it, and then when I said it out loud, um, it felt worse. It did not have a good mouth feel. So apologies. Sorry, guys. There are some things in my head that make sense. On the page, it makes sense. But putting bonus next to it just kind of probably not a good option. So sorry. Okay, again, what did the Shinrikyo cult use to attack the Tokyo subway system in 1995? A, radioactive materials, B, sarin gas, C, weaponized illness, or D, monkeys. Carbonation is a terrible thing. Number six, true or false? The lifetime prevalence of PTSD is higher amongst cult survivors than it is amongst adult Americans. Um, so true or false? The lifetime prevalence of basically PTSD is higher amongst cult survivors than it is amongst adult Americans. Bonus point: in what decade, within one decade, on either side, was the term brainwashing first used? For example, if it's the 1960s, either the 1950s or the 70s would receive points as guesses, as the correct answer would as well. So there it is. There it is. You know what? I already forgot. No, I didn't. Like 400 or a little bit less than 400? hmm Getting there. Getting close. It's okay if you're not sure about the answers, because what's going to happen is on Wednesday when we go over these, then you will know. There's no judgment for knowing or not knowing. I don't look at the quiz answers that you guys submit and be like, I can't believe they didn't get all those right. I mean, it's a chance to win, or it's a chance to learn. All right, number seven, true or false? Those with higher self-esteem are more likely to join cults. True or false? Those with higher self-esteem are more likely to join cults. As a bonus point, how many cults within 100 are in the United States currently? I use the United States because we tend to enjoy them. Um, enjoy is not the right word. We put up with them way longer than we should. Again, how many cults within 100 are in the United States currently? And that's why I had to switch my schedule around on Wednesday because I had to score them. All right, that was number 7. Number 8. L. Ron Hubbard founded this infamous cult accused of fraud. A. Scientology. B. Heaven's Gate. C. The Family. Or D. Branch Davidians. Again, yes, we do tend to. Yes, yes, so fast. Which tells you a lot about. Well, if I tell you the rest of that sentence, it gives away one of the answers. Yeah. So, number 8, L. Ron Hubbard founded this infamous cult accused of fraud. Scientology, B. Heaven's Gate, C. The Family, or D. Branch Davidians.
Welcome to the party, pal.
All right, next one. True or false? The standoff in Waco, Texas, between federal law enforcement agents and the Branch Davidians lasted over 50 days. True or false? The standoff in Waco, Texas, between federal law enforcement agents and the Branch Davidians lasted over 40. 40? I wrote 50. Lasted over 50 days. It's not a Freudian slip. Don't look into that. I literally put the wrong number there. Okay. Number 10. The Heaven's Gate suicide cult led by Marshall Applewhite believed what comet was a sign the group was looking for? A. Bop. B. Halley's Comet. C. Kohoutek. Or D. Halley Bopp. Again, number 10. The Heaven's Gate suicide cult led by Marshall Applewhite believed what comet was a sign the group was looking for? Uh, Shereen, the question is 50. That's the was true or false? Was it over 50 days? I said 40 for no reason whatsoever. In my head was the number 4, and it came out. But it wasn't a Freudian slip. So don't look into that. That's just my brain. It's thinking 10 steps ahead. So sorry about that, everybody. Let's see. Okay, so 10. The Heaven's Gate suicide cult led by Marshall Applewhite believed what comet was a sign the group was looking for? A. Bop. B. Halley's Comet. C. Kohoutek. Or D. Halley Bopp. You know, there's I realized that I have access to, I have access to general cable. And one of the channels that is just there is Scientology. It's the Scientology channel. Actually, just by putting Scientology in this, they're probably going to find me and censor me. Whatever. But yeah, that channel is fascinating. Because if you watched anything about Scientology, the majority of it is all just so. Amos, they are serious. Well, I mean, obviously, at least one of them is not a serious choice. I sang it. A. Bop. B. Halley's Comet. C. Kohoutek. And D. Halley Bopp. Adam, I read that. I'm just not gonna put it up. No, I mean, here's the thing. Just like a certain decade was good for the start of cults. This happens to seem to be a resurgence thereof. Also, not only just a resurgence of actual cults or groups that have cult-like qualities, but also people who are interested. And to be honest with you, I would seriously rather have people be interested in learning about it so they could avoid it and not fall into it. So, Mama3, thank you so much for the super chat. It's really hard helping to support you and Brandi. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, this quiz ended up being a little more difficult, didn't it? Hopefully you found that the difficulty was kind of up here, and then as we went, it just kind of came down a bit. Maybe it shut back up at the end, but um, for some of these that were hard to answer, hopefully I was able to provide at least one answer that also made it only your guess out of 3 instead of 4. And yes, a lot of these types of strategies, that's what I would use in classes. So, woe to my students. All right, so we're gonna go through these one more time. Doo-doo-doo. 1. The Brethren, founded by Jimmy T. Roberts, disallows members from using modern conveniences and forbids children from A. Speaking, B. Looking at members of the opposite sex, C. Playing, or D. Going to restaurants. Number 2, which cult is known for its mass weddings with hundreds of couples married simultaneously in huge ceremonies? Hint. Headquarters are in South Korea. A. Unification Church. B. National Labor Federation. C. Fellowship of Friends. They got rid of the one wing. And D. Birmingham Bathing Cult. Bonus point. Tell me within 500 people how many gathered at the headquarters for a mass wedding in 2009? That's weird. 2009. What is it called when the loved ones of a cult member arrange to have that person kidnapped away from the cult and retrained for cult-free life? A. Decultification. B. Deprogramming. C. Re-education. Or D. A typical Friday night.
Light bulb.
Number 4. The People's Temple Massacre occurred in what South American nation? A. Guyana. B. Brazil. C. Uruguay. Ugh, problem with that one. I don't know why. D. Chile. As another additional possible point, if you want to, within 50 people, the number of people who perished in the People's Temple Jonestown Massacre. I think perished makes it a little better. Still stinks, but a little better. You're not the first nor the last to ask that. I do have a whole wife. Yes, we are live stream podcast work spouses. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. What did the Shinrikyo cult use to attack the Tokyo subway system in 1995? A. Radioactive materials. B. Sarin gas. C. Weaponized illness. Or D. Monkeys. Ooby-doo, I want to be like you. Number 6, true or false, the lifetime prevalence of PTSD, also known as the prevalence of PTSD, is higher amongst cult survivors than it is amongst adult Americans. As a bonus, in what decade, within 1 decade on either side, was the term brainwashing first used? For example, if it's the 60s, either the 50s or the 70s would receive points as guesses, as would the correct answer itself. True or false, those with higher self-esteem are more likely to join cults. As a bonus point, how many cults within 100 are in the United States currently? The fact that I have to say within 100 should concern us. Number 8. L. Ron Hubbard founded this infamous cult accused of fraud. A. Scientology. B. Heaven's Gate. C. The Family. Or D. Branch Davidians. L. Ron Hubbard has the same kind of a name as somebody who I would think would say rubble, rubble, rubble all the time. Just the name itself sounds like it, and it also sounds like that kind of a person. Number 9, true or false, the standoff in Waco, Texas between federal law enforcement agents and the Branch Davidians lasted over 50 days. Number 15, slide 15. Number 10, the Heaven's Gate suicide cult led by Marshall Applewhite believed what comet was a sign the group was looking for? A. Mbop. B. Halley's Comet. C. Kohoutek. Or D. Halley-Bopp. And that is this week's Friday night court trivia. It says next topic. I don't know why it says next topic. That's not the next topic. We'll announce the next topic on Wednesday. Well, I know why it says that. It says it because I didn't think to remove it. I'm not going to lie about that. But you have bouncing cult leader heads, so that should be worth something. Good night, Mandy. Don't go. Man, you guys are selling. No, don't do that. That will end in misery because you'll get nothing from me. Because if you say, "Hey, what are the answers?" My answer is going to be very much a dad response, and it'll be the right ones. So just saying. Just saying. So if you wrote them down, you can head to our link tree at any point between now and Wednesday at 8:45, and you can click on the form, enter it in, boom, wham bam, there it is. I am getting various messages from various different places, and I just want to make sure it's not Mrs. Bruce Crime saying something is wrong. Because you never know. And it's not. Okay, we're good. Just gotta, I got it sitting over here just in case. You never know. All right. Well, thanks everybody for doing the quizzes. This has been awesome. And so this is 1, 2, 3, the third quiz of the month. We actually, because this is a longer month, we actually have 2 more quizzes to go. So there's 2 more chances to make these leaderboards move around. You never know. Jen, thanks for gifting a membership. Elizabeth Miller, welcome or welcome back. It's starting to get so hard. It's not because I don't remember. It's just don't push. No, I'm kidding. That would be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny. Do we have an option for like a margarine container or a butter glass thing? That would be great. We just put the superimpose or print the bull symbol on the top. I think then it would take care of itself. For sure. Yes, thanks, Jen and Elizabeth. Welcome. Boy, man, what a day! What a day! And again, you can come back to this and check it out and watch, the questions again. And till Wednesday at 8:45. Lisa, you why you be using separate emojis? There is a blue butter emoji now. At a whole there it is. Angie tossed it in there. It makes me go. Oh, now we're getting a whole bunch of blue butter. Oh no. Does that mean what I think it does in real life? Because my brain seems to think that it does. No, that's not what I thought it was. That's worse. Why is there no poppet emoji? I don't know. I gave you a sound effect. I gave you 2 sound effects. What more do you want from me? I don't understand.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa!
I hope that was effective. Leave. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh yeah. No, see that's what I'm saying. There is always a shot, and you don't know how many points there are, and you don't know who's gonna miss 1 week or not. It really goes back and forth. It's cool. I love it. Absolutely love it. Do it again. You want to clip it. See, now if I was anybody else, I'd say, hell no, I'm not gonna do it again, but I'm gonna do it
You're
again.
tearing me apart, Lisa!
You're welcome. Okay. I'll regret it later, I'm sure. It's gonna show up somewhere. I shall never run for office at this point. Not once, not ever. Not happening. It will never happen. I'd vote for me though, that's for sure. Would you vote for me? That's a loaded question. You don't have to answer it. You don't gotta answer it. All right. Sorry, I'm just adjusting a little bit here in terms of the the camera layout and stuff. Brandi and I go back and forth on what works for the trials and stuff. So, yes, yeah. What was I for what position? Are you talking about what I just said? What did I say? I don't even know what I see, y'all. I don't even remember what I just said. That's how much. You know what? I would downplay myself and say no, I could be. I don't. I don't think in general, like what the past like 4 decades. I feel like I'd be all right. I feel like I'd be a shot. I'm not picking one president or the other to say I'd be better. I'm saying the last 4 decades. I don't feel so bad. So I feel like I'd walk in and they'd be like, huh, all right. Because I'd be walking in dressed up in a mascot suit. Y'all don't understand that I am the Andy from The Office of anywhere that I walk into. And if you've seen The Office and I say Andy, you know what I mean. And you can see it. I'm a mixture of Andy and a Jack from Will and Grace. Put them together. That's me. Oh my gosh, and in every debate, I'm just like bull butter. Bull butter. That would make debates more fun. Here I am. I do have a few more ethical. I have like a bar, right? There's a bar. I've always determined that there's just some professions that I would never excel in because I just could not sink to that. Just couldn't sink. Hi. Yes, I love Jack. My favorite. You see, when you say something like this, in my head, a scene plays out of what actually happens, and all I can think of is just Matt Gaetz spearing me. He finally gets the aggression out physically that he's always wanted to, just spearing me. Boo. Man, just like Goldberg. Yeah. If I don't have any, they're sure gonna drum some up. But also, I probably do. All right, let's hit play, shall we? Juan is continuing on.
Well, I rented the car out of Redding, California. And the reason that I rented the car out of Redding, California, which is approximately 90 miles south of Wairika, is because Priceline did not offer this same deal in Wairika. Priceline only offered it in Redding. And that's why I went ahead and did it that way. It wasn't that I didn't want people in Wairika to know what kind of car I was renting, because heaven forbid, if they knew I was renting this car, it could come back to me. And of course, I don't want to be identified in killing Mr. Alexander, so I've already made provisions for the gas cans. Now I've got to make provisions for the car. And so she says that's the reason why she goes to Redding, California. Except that the documents show something else. Exhibit 523 is the statement from Washington Mutual from June 1 of 2008 to June 30 of 2008. And this is the statement that she, the defendant, authenticated on the witness stand. And in fact, what we have here is the budget rent-a-car. You see it, June 9th, budget rent-a-car in Redding, California. That's what we're talking about. But if you also remember, after she killed Mr. Alexander, she came to the memorial and she flew down here. And if you take a look at down here, there it is. See that? She paid $246.99. And that was to Priceline.com, and it says air. This Priceline, they have to get their act together here. Yeah. At one point, when it comes down to the flight, I pay them. But when it comes to the car, even though I go through Priceline, I got to pay for the car. And how is Priceline ever going to get paid if they don't take their money up front for the rental car? That's how it works.
If I show them myself.
They get their money up front.
Argue, objection, argument, that's not
Overruled. They get their money up front. And that's how it's listed in these documents, so that we know who's getting the money. Otherwise, if it were left to budget, then you're imposing upon budget, if Priceline is involved, another accounting step for them to pay Priceline. And it may be a situation where Priceline never pays them. So by this document right here, when the defendant tells you that the reason I went to Reddit was because of the Priceline connection, she lied to you. Unless, of course, Washington Mutual made this up. Maybe Washington Mutual also subscribes to the law of attraction, and they don't want to put anything negative here. Maybe it could happen that way, right? That's what they want you to believe. Don't believe what's written down. Believe what I say. That's the same situation here as it is with those diaries. They want you to believe not what the diary said, what she tells you. They don't want you to believe what that document says. They want you to believe what she says. So now we know that she goes to Reading after she's made provisions for the gas cans. She goes to Reading so that people will not recognize her because she...
Rude. Rude. How dare you say I should be a bass player? Rude. Brandi's got jokes tonight.
He is going to kill Travis Alexander. There is no other explanation for making up all these stories that we're talking about here. There is no other explanation. Contacts Daryl Brewer, now has the gas cans, now has the car rented, and still this car, it's in Reading, where people are not going to know her. And in fact, it's at an airport. By definition, an airport is where people come in and they leave, they're traveling. Those are not the kind of people that you're going to run across at the supermarket. And so it's a way for her to hide. And she shows up there, and Mr. Colombo says to her, got this nice little red ditty over here for you. Nice little red car that you can drive on your way to Arizona, or not Arizona.
And then 12 strings.
Just drive around. And by the way, where are you going to drive? Oh, just around town. That's all I'm going to do. Why did she lie to him? Why did she make that up to him? Because she didn't want to tell him that she was going to Mesa, Arizona, like she had already told Daryl Brewer, because then again, that would connect her. But why not take the red car? Well,
there's a video out there. You'd really have to find it. But it's me doing a lip sync to the song With You by Chris Brown back in 2005. And there is most assuredly a scene with me in the coat that I was given from Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And a pair of shorts, and that's it. So, good luck. You're on a hunt.
Well, according to her, red cars call the attention of the police. And she certainly doesn't want that. She doesn't want the police to find out about her because she's on a mission.
Also like 40 pounds ago.
A mission to kill somebody. Why would you take a gun if you are going to go on this trip other than to kill this guy? And she says, I didn't know that I was going to go there. Even though I told Daryl Brewer, I didn't know I was going to go there. Keep in mind that this is a rental car. And one of the things that she says as she's pointing the finger at Mr. Alexander and how viciously sexual he is. Do you remember what she claimed that she was down in that office. Do you remember? She said, we were down in that office and I had brought over some CDs from the trips that we had taken with some photographs. You remember that? And she said I had scratched them. For whatever reason, she had scratched those CDs. And he got mad and threw that CD because, you know, that guy, he gets mad at everything. And so I then have to have intercourse with him to calm him down. That's what she said. If she's not going to visit him, if she's not going thinking, or if she hasn't already made up her mind to leave Wairika and visit Mr. Alexander in Mesa, Arizona, why? Why take these CDs of the trip with her? Why take these CDs? Who is she going to show these CDs to other than him? And she's in a rental car. So that requires a volitional movement on her part to take something from inside the house or her car, whichever one she does. But it requires a volitional movement to get those CDs into her car and drive down to Redding, California, and then put them in the rental car. There is no other explanation for those CDs to be in Mesa, Arizona, other than that she knew. She absolutely knew and had already
Every single
planned it.
piece of that outfit
She knew.
was from across the hall,
Why else take the CDs?
from a gal that lived there.
Do you think that Joe Colombo wanted to look
Just
at them?
saying. At that point, I
think
could
that
do it.
her family in Redding cared. The ones that she claims took her to the airport. Nobody cares about that. But it's a good way to disarm, if you will. Or it's a good excuse to show up unannounced somewhere. Look, you know, the only reason I'm dropping by, just like I did back in August of 2007, the only reason I dropped by was to show you this. It's not my fault that you haven't seen these, and it's not my fault that I haven't been able to get them to you. Not my fault at all. Not at all. But you know, I'm making it up to you now. She left Wairika, California with those CDs, but she forgot about it as she attempted to manipulate the story from the witness stand. She forgot about it. It's those little details that she forgets. And so she brings those CDs and doesn't want the red car. And the reason she doesn't want the red car because, well, police will see her. Doesn't want to be stopped by police. And it's actually foretelling of what happens later because she's stopped in West Jordan, Utah by the police for a different reason, but she is stopped by the police and she's right. According to her mind, a red car is more significant or stopped more prominently or frequently by police. Doesn't want to be stopped because what if she's stopped in a place that shows that she's going to Mesa? She wants to hide the fact that she's going to Mesa, Arizona. And the only reason to hide that fact is because she's going to kill him. It isn't like the bishop is going to be upset if she shows up in Mesa, Arizona. It's not like her family's going to be upset if she shows up in Mesa, Arizona. She's an adult. It's not like her friends, whoever they may be, because we don't know who they are. They're not going to be upset if she shows up in Mesa, Arizona. The only reason to keep this whole thing a secret, which is what she tried to do, is because she was going to kill him. And she's making preparations. And she's very good at making these preparations. You do have to tip your hat to her. First of all, the burglary. If she does a burglary, there are no suspects. One of the only things to take it is this 25 caliber. It's lost, it's out there. It's 25 caliber handgun. Then she rents this car and then takes the white car. And the white car does have some floor mats in it. She takes this white car and says, I'm only gonna drive around here. Again, she lies, makes that up. It's like a field of lies that has sprouted around her as she sat on that witness stand. It's every time she spat something out, another lie, another weed would grow around her. And so she gets in that car, heads out, and sleeps the night at Matthew McCartney's house. And the next morning, June 3rd of 2008, she then shows up over in Monterey, the Monterey area, shows up there in the morning and sees Daryl Brewer. And yes, she now has 2 gas cans. And the only reason to get these gas cans is to put gas on them.
Why, thank you. Miss Brandi, muchos gracias. Welcome back to Lilith, and welcome to Courtney Barnes and Lindsay Lewis and Tracy and Shayna's back in green. Congratulations, everybody. Welcome back to the cult. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Brandi, I don't know if you were here when somebody asked if we were married. Apparently, we give off that vibe. Somebody clarified that I had a whole wife and that we were just streaming work partner spouses. What? Yes. I'm the only type of husband that Brandi will put up with. I think. Is that right? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I really don't. Hello, RA. Wonderful job on your coverage, sir. I mean, I'd say I was impressed, but I knew you were going to be fantastic. So I really enjoyed watching it. And you just in general. So thank you. Wonderful job. If you have not subscribed to RA, go ahead and go do that and join the over. Oh goodness, what's the count now? RA, what is the count now? I think I'd have this up. I should. Here we are. Join the over 40,000 people who subscribe. Brandi and I reminiscing at the time that we were getting into 10. Well, we weren't. I wasn't. I wasn't nobody. But you getting to 10,000. So yeah, we're at over 40,000. What you're at over 40,000, and that's flipping awesome. And I've always said that good things need to happen to good people, and doggone it, you're proving it right. And I'm really happy for you. Yeah. He does 4.5 billion. What did Brandi? Yeah, right. Hello. That I can't even do it. I can't do it right. Can't do it right. I do have a whole wife. And no. Mm-mm. I mean, maybe, but not in this case. This world. Oh, JT is Brandi doesn't. You're right. She doesn't. Poor Mrs. Bruce Crime does. Oops. Oh. Thank you. All right, we gotta hit play. I gotta hit play. I'm getting distracted, y'all.
There's no other reason why anybody would get a gas can to go on this trip. Well, the ostensible reason to get these gas cans is perhaps gas is cheaper in Utah, or maybe gas is cheaper in Nevada than it is in California. And that's one of the reasons that's given. But if gas is cheaper in Nevada or Utah, and she does fill them up in Utah, why then? Why would she fill them up in Pasadena? Why would she fill up these 3 gas cans in Pasadena? The only reason she would fill these gas cans up in Pasadena is because she was going to take the drive to Mesa. And sure enough, there is no evidence that she ever was in this area through this gas, by purchasing gas. Everybody that travels in, if they stop somewhere and use a credit card, it's easy to trace, but not if you don't stop anywhere. And so she picks up these 2 gas cans and begins to drive. And after she begins this drive, take a little detour. And this little detour is after some thought, because this is a meticulous approach to premeditation. This is a meticulous approach to killing. Again, why stop in Salinas, California at a Walmart to buy another 5-gallon can? Because she's been thinking, and she thinks, 10 gallons, let's say that maybe 30 miles per gallon, that's only 300 miles, so I need another 5, maybe that gives me another 150 miles, that's 450 miles. Nope. That gets me through Arizona and into Nevada. So she stops at the Walmart.
Could it be?
And she stops at the Walmart and she does buy a gas can. She admits it. So when you look at this receipt, $237 2.00A, and you look at it, the bottom item there for $12.96 is the gas can. I guess that's the price of premeditation these days. $12.96. And she admitted, yeah, sure did. On cross-examination, I bought that gas can. But, and she was very specific, I took it back to this same store, 2458, on that same day.
Objection, that's not evidence.
Overruled.
You
Phrasing.
remember what she said on cross-examination when she was asked, where did you take that gas can back? And on cross-examination specifically, she said, I took it back to the same store that I bought it from.
Objection, mischaracterizes testimony.
Overruled. The jury is directed to recall the evidence.
And do you remember at that time that the question that was followed up was, well, would it surprise you that that store in Salinas doesn't have any record of that? And her answer was, yes, it would surprise me because I got money back. I got a refund. That's the way the exchange went. And your notes should reflect that. So didn't take it back there, did she? But she told you that. Why did she say that? Why did she tell you that? Because that's just crushing, if you will, in terms of whether or not this is premeditated. And it is premeditated. She was coming to Mesa with a gun and a knife. This knife appeared from somewhere, so she had to have brought it up. Knives are not in a bathroom. So she stops there after thinking about it, and now has another gas can, which gives her a further range. If we use 30 miles per gallon, we're talking about an extra 450 miles. Well, one of the other things that she does as part of this premeditation or part of what's going on is that, you know, if you want to do something like this, it's a good idea that when you show up, that people not recognize you at the place where you're going to commit this murder. And so if you have blonde hair and you saw the photograph of her with the blonde locks and the black dog and how they told you that that's the same color. Do you remember that line of questioning that went on with Lonnie Dworkin, their expert on computers? The question was asked, well, do you think that this hair here with the dog looks the same as the one where she's laying back? Do you remember that line? Like he was some sort of expert on hair color. You don't need anybody to tell you what the hair color was when she was there with the dog. You can see for yourself. You don't need the prosecutor or anybody to tell you. But you do know one thing. You were also shown photographs that were also taken on June 3rd of 2008, about this same time, and you saw the hair color, didn't you? Are you going to believe Mr. Dworkin and the defendant, or are you going to believe your eyes? Maybe the law of attraction tells you that you should believe Mr. Dworkin, because again, you can't believe the text messages, you can't believe what's written down on the receipt, and you can't believe what's in her journal because of this law of attraction. Now you can't even believe your own eyes, because if you do believe your own eyes, you know she's premeditating the murder. She's thinking about killing him. That's all that's required. The state doesn't even need to prove a whole plan such as this. All the state needs to prove is that the defendant thought about it, the killing, before she actually carried it out. And this is an extensive amount of planning, days, 6 days in advance, 6 to 7 days in advance of her killing him, a week or so. And so she stops there, makes more preparations. Now she can freely drive through Mesa with enough gas so that she doesn't have to stop anywhere. More thinking that goes on. And she tells you, well, I hadn't planned on going there to Arizona. I hadn't even thought about it. But Mr. Alexander, that guy, always guilting me. This is, you know, it's just a bad disease, this guy, always guilting me. You know, it's not my fault. That's what she's telling me. It ain't my fault. I told him I was going to go to Utah, and he was a little bit suspicious about why I was going to Utah, but why don't you stop here in Arizona? You can stop here in Arizona. That's what she told you that he said, or that he implied, that he wanted. She kept saying, no, you're going to come up here to see me after your trip in Cancun. It's okay. Well, the problem is that it's her word. Do we really know, based on all these lies, that that's what he told her? Or was there just a call to try to find out what he was doing?
Been
Does he have
there.
a visitor there?
Been
Does he have somebody
there.
there?
I hear
What are
you.
his roommates doing? Are they going to be there when I arrive? What is the situation there? Are
don't
you
think-
going to take her word for that? Is there any
I
indication?
don't think my
anywhere
stream's gonna help you
Mr.
much.
Alexander even knew that she was coming down there?
It's like a
We have a
fever
word.
dream.
You know, in cases that are minor to you, not even important cases, are you going to take her word? And remember, this individual has no problem with telling lies.
The one benefit
You've
of
seen
my
it
extreme
throughout this whole trial.
ADHD.
Well, she
Drink
says that she
caffeine
does
just
have this
balances me
conversation
out.
with him. And in fact, the phone records do bear out that there is a conversation, but the content of the conversation is still in doubt. And I only have to point out to the point as far as the May 10th, 2008 conversation, in terms of showing that she has no problems lying on the telephone, where she says, well, yeah, I was faking it. And you know what she said she was faking. Even though you heard her squealing like a cat. No, that's just me faking it. And you know why?
Oh,
Because
Miss
I need two
Wilhelm is
hands.
not happy with
That's
that.
why she was faking it.
Oh man.
Okay.
Oh, jacked up a
if you
Mountain
can lie on May 10th of 2008 on the telephone to Mr. Alexander, what makes us think that you can't lie about what you and he talked about on June 3rd of 2008? And remember, she's got this history all along, not
Over to
only of
my
lying
channel,
outside of the
Corroborating
courtroom,
Consciousness.
but she has
Ta-da.
sat on the witness stand, a place where you have taken an oath, a place that is sacrosanct and finding the truth, has sat on that witness stand, looked at each and every one of you in the eye, and lied to you, specifically the gas cans, specifically about Priceline. And to another extent, the finger. If you remember, she said, oh, you know, he was starting to kick me, he broke my finger. He didn't get any medical care, but he broke my finger. Or alternatively, I actually was working at Casa Ramos before I went. And when I was at Casa Ramos, or Margaritaville, one of the two, you take your pick, because that's what you told Mr. Burns. And either I went up against one of the edges, the metal edges, and it cut me, or alternatively, it was a margarita glass. No, and then she takes the witness stand and says, well, in terms of the damage to the finger, I actually damaged the finger when I was at Mr. Alexander's home on June 4th of 2008, but the glass was that. That's how it happened. What story are you going to believe from this individual? And that's the issue here as to when she tells you something, what are you going to believe? And so she leaves that area and off she goes. Drives to Pasadena. We know that telephone calls with Mr. Alexander are after that, but she drives to Pasadena. And then something that is so bizarre happens
Sorry.
to her. It seems that there's this
My bad.
coincidental horde of skateboarders in Pasadena. That's the way the kids are there in Pasadena. They go in hordes, these skateboarders. And this horde of skateboarders, well, they carry
Virginia Little,
screwdrivers.
thank you so much
That's one
for
of the things. If you're
membership.
going to be in this
Jill
horde
Bell,
of
welcome.
skateboarders,
Oh.
you have to have a screwdriver. That's what you got to do. Or else you're not allowed in this particular
Well,
club out
isn't
in
that
Pasadena.
special?
And you can get a strawberry frappuccino or whatever it is that you get at Starbucks when you go there. Be careful, because when you go in to get this strawberry frappuccino, things are going to happen to your license plate if you run across this horde of skateboarders with this screwdriver. And so when she was questioned about that in cross-examination, one of the things that she said was, well, yeah, I was pulling out after stopping there. And I was pulling out and I saw something flat on the ground.
Freezing.
And when challenged on that, if you see something flat on the ground, what makes you think that you can go and pick it up? What in God's name would ever
You're not
motivate
wrong.
you to go and pick this up, especially if you were afraid of this horde of skateboarders in Pasadena? Because she did say that she was concerned for her safety. Why even get out of the car if you don't even know what it is, and if you don't even know that it's related to the car? And she said, I didn't know it was related to car. I didn't know what it was. And she's having problems with the truth there because, remember, she's got to remember, she remembers that she's got the license plate in the back. That she's got to deal with this issue involving the license plate in the back and whether or not they're connected. And she says, oh, I don't even know what the license plate was. I didn't even look in the back.
I'm just glad the
When
horse
challenged further, she said, oh, wait a minute, no. It wasn't flat. It was actually standing up. And it was standing up, and I was able to reflect and realize that it was this, not square, she corrected the prosecutor, rectangular. Remember that? It was rectangular object that she recognized as a license plate. And if you don't have any suspicion whatsoever that it has anything to do with your car, why then? Why would you even get out of the car and go look when you're scared to get a license plate? Why would, on God's green earth would you do that? When you're lying, that's when you would do that. That's exactly when you would do that. But she says, oh, you know, I went and got it, and I really couldn't tell the numbers, and I didn't compare it to the back. So now you're a thief. Somebody else's license plate is sitting out there. You don't know it's yours. Potentially, if it's not yours, it's somebody else's, and they may potentially come back for it. So what are you doing? You're stealing it. You're depriving them of the opportunity to have the front license plate, which is obviously required in the state of California because this car had two of them. So that's what you're doing there, because she didn't check to see if it corresponded with the one in the back. And the reason that she's having problems with that is because, as you know, in West Jordan, Utah, the one in the back is upside down. Like somebody took it off. And like somebody put it in the back seat of the car when they arrived at Travis Alexander's house, so that the car wouldn't be able to be identified to them. Just like that. That's, but she can't admit that, and that's why she's having problems with this license plate that's out there in this parking lot. And she ends that conversation with the prosecutor during cross-examination by saying, oh, well, I didn't see numbers or whatever, because you know what? I can't see. I needed glasses back then, so I really couldn't see. So I just grabbed it, and it had bugs on it, and so I thought it was mine. So without any regard to whether or not it really is hers, throws it in the back seat of the car. Who does that? No one does that. Making it up. And she's making it up because she got stopped in West Jordan, Utah, and has to explain how it is that the front license plate got into the car. Because this horde of skateboarders from Pasadena, they can't get into her car. So she has to be the one to do it. And the only way that she can say that she's the one to do it is to make up a story. And she made up the story about these skateboarders. I guess it's this wild board kind of thing where you have to have the screwdriver. They're the ones that did it. And you know she's making that up. She's lying to you about it. And the reason she's lying to you is because in West Jordan, Utah, that license plate was found in her car. So one of the other things that she doesn't, okay, we stop.
Recess.
The judge must.
Please be
Are
back in
you
the
done yet?
designated area at 1:30. We will
Are
start
you done?
promptly at that
You need to
time.
eat.
Please remember the admonition, you are excused for lunch. Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Mr. Martinez, you may continue with your closing argument.
Defendant had made her way to Pasadena along with her will to kill Mr. Alexander in the evening of June 3rd of
Pasadena,
2008.
along with her will.
And she stopped at the Starbucks. And after stopping at the Starbucks, or as part of this stop, she decided to fill up. And we know that she had the 3 gallons of gas, or the 3 gas cans at that point, based on the receipts that are before you. And the reason that she had those gas cans filled is so that now she was prepared to make it all the way through Arizona without having to stop for gasoline. And she, on her direct testimony,
You can't handle the truth.
examination indicated that, well, The car, for whatever reason, had a bad engine, for lack of a better term. It kept using gas so much, trying to manipulate you into thinking that she stopped at a number of places and used all the gas in the gas cans. But there are no records or any other corroborative evidence that indicates that she stopped anywhere here in the state of Arizona for gasoline. So her plan, if you will, was working well at that point. She wanted to kill him. There was no way that anybody would be able to say that she was even in the state of Arizona, because the defense would have been, well, I would have had to have stopped for gas. And there was no indication anywhere, and there is no indication anywhere that she stopped for gas in the state of Arizona. Another thing that she did as she came into the state of Arizona is she turned off her telephone. And this telephone the cell phone that she had was turned off so that it could not be traced by law enforcement. So now not only do you have her in a vessel, an automobile that will not be traced to the state of Arizona, you also have her with a telephone that is turned off. She gave several reasons to different people as to why the telephone was turned off. One of them that she gave to Ryan Burns was that somehow it had lost its charge, and that she had lost the charger, and somehow she'd been able to buy it at some store. That was her story, and then she was able to charge the telephone so that she then was able to call him near Hoover Dam. Another story that she gave was that, well, when she stopped on the side of the road and she was cleaning up from killing Mr. Alexander, she actually was able to go underneath the seat and find the charger. Either way, the net effect of that was that as she came into Arizona, there was no electronic trail of her being here, and there was no physical trail of her coming through. And this was done for the purpose. She knew that she was coming to kill him. There is no other reason why you would turn off your telephone as you're coming through here, especially this woman who clearly loved to use her telephone, but for this particular trip, for this time when she's approaching Mesa, telephone is off. And it doesn't come on until sometime later near Hoover Dam, again indicating she was never in the Mesa area. And without the electronic trail, it would have been difficult for the police to find that out. So now you have her in a position where she can come to Arizona and no one's going to know. She's in a car that's white, not red, so the police are not going to stop her. And she shows up with a gun and a knife. And she shows up to see Mr. Alexander. And if you remember that one of the things that she told the police officer, she always, whenever it was not to her benefit, would say, well, no, I was lying then. As if somehow that's a fallback position. As if somehow that's something to be rewarded. That, oh, I lied. So because I have admitted that I lied, you should put that in the good column. Forgetting that she lied to start with, and she lied to cover up the killing. And so she indicated that to this officer in a telephone call, and by this officer I mean Detective Esteban Flores, that she knew the code to his garage, 0187. And so she knew the code to the garage, and she indicated that that's how she came in. She didn't knock on the front door. She didn't go out through the back and peep through the sliding glass doors like she'd done before. She actually walked in. There's no indication that Mr. Alexander came to the door. And this was sometime after 4 o'clock in the morning. And as she came in, one of the things that's telling about what happened is that she said, I came in and I stood by the door and I watched him. And I watched him for 30, 45 seconds. Who does that? Who comes in and stands there? Someone with
Couldn't make it
sort
in time.
of stalking
Oh,
behavior in the
sorry,
past?
everybody.
Someone who's arriving there unannounced? Someone who is there to surprise Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander happens to be awake. He's got the dog Napoleon with him, and the dog barks, and there's this hello, how are you kind of thing. And at that point, she says that either she does bring her stuff in or she doesn't bring her stuff in. She may have brought her camera at that point. And we also know that she brought in her purse. And her purse is big enough for this toy-looking 25 caliber handgun. It's also big enough for a knife. She comes in, and according to her, they go to sleep. There's no sexual activity between them at that point. if Mr. Alexander was this sexual fiend that she has attempted to portray, why didn't he just force himself on her there? And she said, well, at that point, I told him that I was tired and that I did not want to have sex. So whenever she said no, Mr. Alexander abided by that. The only time that she ever indicated that no, she didn't want to have sex with him, he abided by that. And they went to sleep until the next day.
If that's true,
The next
I
day,
think it probably
they do
is.
engage in some sexual
Good man.
contact. And there's such a stigma that
Not
the
saying he was
defendant has
perfect,
attempted to
but in that
attach
case, good man.
to this particular encounter. In fact, she goes so far as to speak with
But where is it?
Richard Samuels, Dr. Richard Samuels, and tell him about this, and tells him that these photographs were actually taken while she was straddling Mr. Alexander. Additionally, she talks about how Mr. Alexander has on his computer all these photographs of women's breasts. Just has to add all of this to make Mr. Alexander be something that he is not, or have this encounter be something that it isn't. He did not go to Wairika to seek her out. She drove here to the state of Arizona, to Mesa, to see him. Yes, he did have a camera, and yes, it was used. And thank God he had the camera, because that's the reason why we're standing here, because of the images captured on that camera. And so they engaged in this sexual contact. And there's this, again, this religious sort of overtone, somehow that she's holier than thou, that it was all of at his request. It was all about him. It was nothing about her. And that he's somehow violative of the concepts or the precepts of the Mormon faith. Why is that important? It's important because she wants to manipulate you. She wants you to believe that, wow, he's such a bad guy. He's holding himself out to be a virgin. And somehow that's really, really bad. That when people date,
What it is
or
the
when people
cover
talk
up
about
for
their
saying,
sexual
"You done effed
lives,
up."
they somehow don't want everybody to know everything that's going on. If you remember, Deanna Reed indicated that, yes, they had transgressed. They had engaged in sexual contact, but they went to see the bishop. They got whatever penance or whatever punishment or whatever happened, but they never engaged in that contact again. Somehow the defendant wants to make it seem that Mr. Alexander kept constantly going. He was this individual who had lost his priesthood or had not, had or had not. And somehow that this encounter was a microcosm of their whole relationship. Well, if it is a microcosm of their whole relationship, then we have the willing partner sitting right here. Somebody who enjoyed it just as much as he did. One hand or two hands, she enjoyed it as much as he did. There are no indications in those photographs other than from their experts who say, look at the face. You can tell by the face that she really doesn't want to be there. Really? Can you tell by a grimacing face whether that's pain or joy? Can you tell that by just looking at somebody's face, especially if we're talking
don't
about
go there, man.
a sexual situation?
60+% of
You
communication.
can't. But they come in and they want to tell
Don't
you
do
that
it.
because they have a psychology degree or they have a master's degree. And they want to tell you that don't believe what you see in your eyes. Don't use your common sense or the experiences that you have coming in here. Believe what we have to say. And by looking at those photographs, you can see that this was all about Mr. Alexander. And again, that's just a microcosmic view, if you will, of this whole relationship where she says, I really never wanted to do it, but it was all about him. And yet, if you look at the photographs, there's no indication there that she really didn't want to do it. She was enjoying it as much as he was. And so they engage in this conduct, these two Mormons. So stop pointing a finger at him and stop wagging it as if somehow being a Mormon precludes you from being human. If somehow that's something bad that he didn't, because she's just as Mormon as he is. So if there are fingers to be pointed, it should be pointed at each other. And if
When you
one's
point,
conduct
there's
is
three
bad,
fingers pointing
the other
back.
one is just as bad. But that's not what this case is about. And they want you to think that that's what this case is about, that this is about Mormonism and the fact that Mr. Alexander was engaging in sexual intercourse.
So you're
What
telling me
those
there's a chance?
photographs show was that she was there. And they show you the time that she was there sometime after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They may say that the color of her hair there is blonde, but you've been able to see that and you know what the color of her hair is. You don't need anybody to tell you what the color of her hair is. And so you know that at about 1:30, they are consummating, if you will, their feelings for each other, at least on a physical level. No indication there of anything else other than perhaps Mr. Alexander has adopted what the defendant has provided for him, because you do see the KY bottle in some of those photographs. And you do know who introduced that into the relationship from the May 10th, 2008 conversation where Mr.
I'm glad
Alexander
you popped
thanked her
here.
for introducing him to that. We don't know who brought that
Can I sum up
on that
on
particular
our
day,
closing?
but it could be reasonably inferred. We're not saying that it happened. That she brought it. She's the one that introduced him to it. Perhaps he already had it there. Either way, that's symbolic, if you will, of her attentiveness to this sexual
Jodi is playing tic-tac-toe with
relationship
herself,
that they had.
and she's
And
losing.
so later on in the afternoon, toward getting later, sometime after 5, the defendant says, and it depends on what you listen or what version you listen to, that at that point, Mr. Alexander wanted to show off his body, according to her. And he wanted her to take photographs of him. You've heard the tape of her conversation with Detective Flores. That was taken when she was arrested up in Wairika. In it, she says that he really didn't want to, that he was reluctant, and that she talked him out of it. And they talk about his shaving
Behave.
and how she
Behave.
loved the way he shaved because it was
I
old-fashioned.
expect a summary on my desk.
And then
What I
she
missed.
starts talking about how, yes, she is able to get him to get into the shower and take photographs of that. And it really is more of her idea than his. And the only reason that the state can say that it is really more idea than his is if you hearken back, think back to what Darrell Brewer told you. One of the things that he was asked on cross-examination was, when he was on the witness stand, were there ever any photographs that were taken of you by the defendant? And he said, yes, only on one occasion were there photographs taken of me. I didn't want them taken. I was in the shower when she started to snap the photographs. So if it's something that she did in the past, if it's something that she's comfortable doing, to then turn around and say, oh no, Mr. Alexander was the person that wanted me to do it, when as part of the same case, you have her saying that, no, he did not want her to do it. But she then starts taking photographs, and according to her, very sexy. But at that point, the ill will was already there. She is armed with both a knife and a gun at that point. And she begins to take these photographs. And as she takes these photographs, even though she says they are of a Calvin Klein kind of quality, the water coming down, as if it was sort of a Pacific, a very quiet, bucolic kind of scene. That's not what's going on. She talked earlier about a knife, justifying how a knife would have been upstairs by saying that there was this 20-foot rope, and that somehow she was tied up with that 20-foot rope to that bed. And it depends on who she's talking to as to whether or not she was tied on her ankles as well as her wrists. But you've taken a look at that sleigh bed. Where is she going to be tied up on that bed? Making it up, trying to justify or trying to have a knife there for some other purpose. But if you take a look at that bed, and you've seen it, you know that she's making it up, just making it up. If she's not making it up, then why has she told some of the experts that she was tied by her ankles or on the foot of the bed? Why does she tell somebody else that it was both her ankles and wrists? Why does she need to keep changing positions? Because she has a lot to remember. And with the truth, you ain't got nothing to remember. But she has a lot to remember. And it's a lot for her to keep straight, given that she's making all of this up. And so, given the facts as we know them, and the fact that there was no rope, because it would have required her to clean up in the bedroom because that's where the rope was. And if she was all bloody, because we do know that the floor was all
I see
bloody,
what you
it
did
was
there.
also very wet.
Can we talk? Can we talk about the shirt tie choice / suit choice of Kirk? Because the man is on point. He's on point. Also, those look like marijuana leaves, and now you can't miss it. You can't see it. You can't see it. My face is blocking it. My mug is blocking it. Hold on. There it is. Can we talk about his shirt tie combo, please? It's fantastic. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But yes, it also, I rest my case on the whole shirt. Looks like it's got marijuana leaves on it. They just happen to be blue.
It was either wet with water, which is white, or it was wet with blood, which is red, Mr. Alexander's blood. It would have required her to go into the rest of the bedroom and leave some trail of that. And there's nothing there. So it means there was no rope there, and there was no knife there for her to get. It means that she had both the knife and, or at least the knife at the time of the attack. And so what happens then is that she's standing there, and then we have this photograph. Exhibit 160.
Oh, come on now. Really? I don't have that back up. All right, hold on. Wait a tick. He just got it zoomed in on him. That doesn't work. One moment. Hopefully you can still hear it though.
This is the last photograph of Mr. Alexander while he's still living and before anything bad has happened to him. Quite a legacy for him, isn't it? He's sitting there. Not only is he defenseless, he does not have a gun, he does not have a knife, he doesn't have any weapon whatsoever. Not only does he not have that, he doesn't have any clothing on. And as he sits there, he doesn't have any dignity either. She's taken that away from him. And if anybody is defenseless, in this case, it isn't the defendant, it's Travis Alexander, as he sits like that in that shower with his killer standing there dressed in pants, presumably a top on, because there's no indication that she didn't have a top on, with his camera. And she starts snapping this. Part of the story of hers that you would have to believe is that this is also an inadvertent photograph, that this is also an accidental photograph. But take a look, if you will, at the acuity and the sharpness of this photograph. There's nothing accidental about this. Somebody held the photograph, or the camera, firmly. The defendant held it firmly as she pressed the button and took this photograph, the last live photograph of Mr. Alexander. And while she had that in that position where he is in the inferior position to her, he's down, she's standing up. She can approach him, and she can approach him as he's sitting there. And she did. No doubt about that. This is not a case of whether or not there was an attack here, whether or not it wasn't her. It's her. And it's him. And it's the man that she has just had sex with. And it's this individual that she has planned to kill all the way from May 28th of 2008, days, even though the premeditation statute only requires a certain period of time. It doesn't require days, doesn't require planning, requires thinking. And so she's been thinking about it for a long time because she came very prepared. And before she even went in there, one of the other preparations that she took was to take the license plate off the car. And now she's inside, now she's got him like that. Can anybody think of how anything else could be so much colder or without feeling for the person than to make.
Objection, Your Honor. Your Honor, I'm probably-
It is cold. It is thinking. It is premeditated.
Oh, that's right. I took the. I'm sorry, everybody. Here it is. It's got that picture everywhere, and I'd like him to take it
Go up
off.
to this individual, someone that she has planned to kill for days,
For the most
someone
part,
which,
it's not
with whom she has
fact,
been
but I
intimate with,
was trying not to
and then
show.
attack him. She has indicated to you that it was a shot to the head, but the evidence, the forensic evidence, speaks otherwise. And for you to believe her, and for you to believe that the shot was first, you will need to set aside everything that she's told you, for example, the gas cans, everything else that she has told you, including the fact that she lied to the police, including the fact that she lied to the experts, including the fact that she lied here. And then you have to say, even though she's lied all of these times, even though she's looked us in the face and lied to us, we're now going to believe her with regard to just this one particular aspect. That is not something that is available to you, I submit. And I submit that because of everything that she has said. And so she gets her knife. And she took that knife and stabbed him right front here. The reason that we know that she did that is because Mr. Alexander has defensive wounds. And he has defensive wounds to his left and to his right hand. As she is stabbing him, he is alive and he is cognizant of it, and he begins to grab at the knife. But unfortunately for Mr. Alexander, one of the knife wounds is to the heart. Doesn't mean he's going to die immediately. It means he's just going to die. And part of the dying process includes, because of it's the heart, blood coming from his mouth and blood coming out from the wounds. But he's not going to die immediately. He's going to take some time, minutes, to bleed out. But he is going to die. So in a sense, she has already killed him. He's dead.
Friday
Well,
night, and I just
You know that he gets up at some point.
got paid.
You know that he doesn't remain seated there, because throughout the bathroom, or where there's the mat, where there's the scale, all around the bathroom, everywhere, there's blood. And if there's blood everywhere, that means there is movement there. And it isn't the kind of movement that is the flopping of the fish kind of movement. It is movement, it is purposeful movement on the part of Mr. Alexander to save his life. And as this time is going by, again, premeditation does not take days. Premeditation does not take a plan. Premeditation just takes time. And it can be a shorter amount of time. The stab wounds, for example, after the first stab wounds, it could be that. And as he is in this position of dying, he then ambulates. And we know that she didn't carry him over to the sink. We know that he goes there by himself. And one of the things that you see there is this, 98.
Nose tears.
That's the sink.
Nose tears.
And that's the sink with his blood on it after he has been stabbed. The reason that you know that he has already been stabbed at this point is because of the patterns that you have on this particular photograph. Right here on the left. And remember the injuries to the hand. He had more stab wounds to the left hand than he did to the right hand. And one of the patterns that was described here was this smudge or this transfer. So that if he, and remember, he had more injuries to his hand. That's not something that she can tell you he doesn't, but you've looked at the photograph. You don't need to believe that. You can believe the photograph. And he does have an injury, a slight injury to his right hand. But if he's standing
I
here,
think she did.
this would be where his left hand is. And you can see that there's the smudge or the transfer as he moves
I'll
that way,
find it.
as he's falling, moving away.
We might have some time after the end of this trial.
Moving. He's still alive,
And I'll
but he's bleeding. That
look
red
for a
stuff
couple of
there,
interviews,
it's blood.
including the
And you also
jury.
have the drops here.
Chief Banks! Chief
Those are
Banks!
placed there by gravity. If this individual
It's been 84
has blood in his
years.
mouth, and you can remember that the medical examiner testified that if you do have an injury to the heart, that's one of the things that
Except
happens.
she only put
And as
Jodi
he-
as all the answers.
It requires Mr. Alexander to be standing there with his left arm like this. And as he's doing that, you do know that this is what's happening to him. She is stabbing him in the back. That's exhibit number
I got a fever,
192.
and the only prescription
That's a
is more
concentric area.
cowbell.
Exhibit 193 also shows us that.
Did.
And
What you need to
he's
do
also
is
being
you need to
stabbed,
forget
as you
about
saw,
Jodi
in the
Arias.
back of the head
That's what I gotta
as
say.
he stands at that sink. Because he is standing at that sink and he is bleeding, and the amount of blood that's at that sink is indicative of time. You just don't go over for a second and get those patterns. He stood there, which means that the defendant was there with a knife, stabbing him. The other pattern that you see there is this
Jodi, you
on the
cannot.
mirror. If you
Do my
remember
emo
the blood spatter person
Don't
indicated
steal it.
that. Well, yes,
Well,
that can
everything
happen
else.
from, for example, gunshot wound, but it can also happen if somebody has blood in their mouth and they get hit in the back of the head. And that's called blood spatter, high velocity splatter. And what that means then is that Mr. Alexander was having some force applied to his head at the time that he was standing there. That's how you can know that Exhibit 193 occurred when he was standing there and strikes to the head, because the splatter that is on the mirror indicates movement. Hitting him, and then he goes and flies into the mirror.
I appreciate that Court TV, for the most part, tried to avoid anything that was super
But
graphic.
he's not dead. He's still standing there. This woman came to visit him.
Boy, Miss Wilmot's
They
really
prepared him.
staring at that photo.
So he begins to go in a
Awkward.
different direction. And we know that he begins to go down the hallway, and he's still standing. The reason that we know that he's still standing is if you take a look at Exhibit 133. That's blood transfer. It's either an item with blood came by or the blood was already there. Well, the item with blood in this case was Mr. Alexander. And as he's going by, you can see he was still sort of standing. And in this rainbow, somewhat ironic, there is no good luck for him at the end of that rainbow. But you can see that it starts high. And it arcs down to the area where there's a larger amount of blood. He's stumbling down that way. But he's stumbling with somebody after him. He's trying to get away. He's trying to get away from her over there. And she may cry now. But the jury instructions have told you that sympathy is not to be considered in this particular case. No doubt that she did it. No doubt that he's trying to get away from her.
glass case of emotion.
You can tell that by the arc that is there. You can see that even clearer. And here, with regard to Exhibit 132, that's the same view when showing the arc there. Just for contrast, to show you that that was part of what was going on, if you take a look at the other side, the other wall,
It's
you
one
can see that these are
ends
more
it
at the
after
bottom,
this.
indicative of substance with
That
blood either
comment
rubbing
will
it
be, say
there
what you will,
or the
but boy, he hit the end really well.
blood already being there and an item going through there, as opposed to this arc that we see here. She chases him down. That's what she did. He's still alive. How many stab wounds has she already given him at that point? The ones to the back? Do we really need to count the number of stab wounds to get? Is there a requisite number to get through the portal of death? No, not really. There's enough here to get him there. He's already got the one to the chest, which is going to kill him. He's already got the ones to the back of the head. They're not failed. And he's got the ones to his back.
Good
But
morning.
they
Good
are
morning.
accelerating his
Great day
departure
up. Good
from Earth.
morning.
Because the more he bleeds, the quicker he dies. He don't die immediately. And so when he gets here to the end of his rainbow, gets there to the end. And when he gets there, that's what she does. This is exhibit number 205. Slits his throat from ear to ear. There can be no doubt that he got there on his own volition, by his own movement, as he tried to get away from her. You know that because of the blood stain there. You know that because of Exhibit 130, which shows you. And remember, the rainbow is right above there. It goes down, he collapses there. She catches up to him and goes for the throat. And if you want to believe her that she doesn't remember anything, doesn't know anything that's going on, why then? Why then, if she really doesn't know what's going on and can't remember, why is she so directed at a place where she can certainly cause death? If she really didn't know what was going on, if it was just really passion, if it was just a heat of passion, then you wouldn't have a directed hit to somewhere that's going to kill. You would have dispersed all over the place. But when he goes down, there is a direct strike to his neck, which is an indication of somebody who is thinking, this person's not going to live. He may get away from me in the shower. He may get away from me all the way to the sink. And he may stumble his way down that hallway. But you know, I caught him. And now, rather than stabbing him anywhere else, right here. So it's a very well orchestrated kill. And it takes
She
time.
wants to make sure she's being seen.
By time, when somebody takes time, people think. So she's now stabbed him in the guy. Now he tried to get away, went to the sink, and what's almost something to consider. Another thing to consider while he's at the sink is that in front of the sink is a mirror. And as he's standing there, a mirror is reflective of what's going on behind him. He has eyes. His eyes are still open at that point. He can see. He can see the defendant deliver the strikes to his back. And down he goes. And then he gets another cut to the neck. But she's not done with him yet. And again, the point here is that if this were a heat of passion, if this were a situation where somebody was just upset, it would be random all over the place. But this was a strike to kill right at the neck. And then after she does that, one of the things that we know is that the shooting didn't take place there. The shooting took place near the sink where he had previously been standing. And so one of the things that they wanted you to believe was that if this person is shot and hit through the head, could have been shot there at the sink, according to them. It's already bleeding and still continued on. But the knife wounds do have to be first. Of course, that would violate the laws of nature because he's bleeding so profusely there that the doctor, by necessity, would have had to have found lots of blood in the track of the bullet, and he didn't. So if he was standing at the sink and he was shot at the sink after being stabbed, there would be lots of blood there, and the doctor did not find any there. So he clearly was shot after that, when the situation was such that his heart wasn't beating, a situation when the heart wasn't pumping enough blood to get it there. Bottom line, he was dead at the time that he was shot. In order to forensically get the result of no blood in the track of the bullet. So he falls there. And then we have more directed behavior. We have this, exhibit number 162. That's Mr. Alexander, that's blood, that's his foot, and that's her foot. And given the fact that we know that the bathroom is this way, that's her standing there. And what's important about that, if we look at this exhibit here, is that
it involves both knife
it looks like
and
there's
gun.
been a wildebeest migration near his head. Look at that. And what's important about that is that even though there is the stomping of the feet, it just means she was over him, hovering him. How many times was she stamping around or stomping around to get that pattern? But what's even more important about that is that there's nothing in the bedroom, which means this was directed behavior at him. She was cognizant of what was going on, because if she would have been in this state that she wants you to think that she was in, then it would have been all over the bedroom. If she'd have been in this hysterical state that she describes for you, that she would run out, run into the bedroom, except it's in pristine shape. What she does then is she begins to drag him. And again, we look at that one, and then exhibit 163, which is a bit later, you can see she's dragging him down the hallway. What that shows is an attempt to clean up. And as she's going by the sink again, we know that she does something else. What she does is this, exhibit 207. Shoots him in the head. There is no blood in that blood tract, which means the heart isn't pumping. And when the heart isn't pumping, he is dead. There is no other medical phenomenon or any other medical indications that would give any other indication. And if that's the case, then he's already dead. And then you have the casing from the .25 caliber handgun that she took during this staged burglary. And then you have the casing right there, falling on top of the blood as she's dragging him back, because by necessity, the body has to be there. And if you remember, there's a closet that's up here, the sink is to the left, and the sink is to the left, and this falls to the right. One of the things that we've talked about is that the shot just right here, if she is dragging him in this fashion, that way, and she's pulling him along here, that would mean that it would be this portion of the head that was exposed, which if you're pulling somebody down the hallway, that's the result that you get. The casing is expelled and it lands on the blood that's already there. So that's when she delivers this shot to him, somebody that's already dead. So she's killed him 3 times over. Is that enough premeditation? Even though she's all of this planning already, this was a very directed attack. And then she goes about the business of cleaning up. One of the most interesting things about the cleanup that she did is that she knows about cameras. She knows what to do with cameras, according to her. And one of the things that she knows what to do with them is delete photographs. And she's able to look at all of the photographs that are on this camera. Let's assume, for example, that they've already deleted the ones involving the sex. This one right here, the inadvertent photographs, Exhibit 162, for example, had to be deleted after he was dead. There's no way
if I could go back in time,
travel here, because that's really what they want you to believe.
Smack her, I would.
After this happened,
I don't like violence,
she located the camera.
but she still has a
And
perfectly make-up
He's
face.
not carrying the camera as he's trying to survive. He couldn't care less about that camera as he's standing over the sink. So what does he do? He just tries to get away. So the camera getting there means that she is the person that was holding onto the camera and carried it to that location. Then, after she shoots him, she goes back, places him in the shower. At some point, either after shooting him at the
It was awful.
at the sink,
As a family,
or
I
after
don't
placing
know.
him in the shower, at some point,
But as us,
she's
years
still
and years
thinking,
later,
because
it was
remember how much she has
awful.
planned before. I got to get rid of this evidence. I got to delete this. What does she do? She deletes only certain images. It's not like all of the images are deleted. This shows somebody who is thinking, oh, I don't want to delete the one of his dog or this other one. I'll delete the only ones that hurt me. And that is directed behavior by somebody who claims to have dissociative amnesia. Dissociative amnesia, you heard what the definition of that was. Or is it a fog? Even the San Franciscan fog, if such a thing existed, wouldn't be so cloudy to account for this kind of behavior. There is no fog that someone can tell you about that hasn't lifted.
if your sound just, is that me? Nope, that's me.
To allow.
Sorry, everybody.
for
All of a
this.
sudden, it got
And so
sounded.
She cleans
the left
that
ear.
out. She has that,
That was
and she
me.
cleans that out. The other thing that we know is that she takes the camera at some point from that area there. And again, what's important about that, yes, it's important what was
Amazing.
found, and yes, it's important that it was found in the washer, but what's actually more important to show that she was thinking is that there are no steps leading from the bedroom down to the area where the camera was found that are bloody in nature or red, which means that she was cleaning herself up. Because if you're going to be walking around there, you by necessity are going to get it in your socks because that's what she's wearing. She would have had to get it on her socks. And if she's into this horrific hysterical state, she would have ran down and thrown it down there. But what she did is she cleaned herself up first. The police did not, and you looked at all the stairs, did not find anything that showed that there was any activity other than up in the bedroom, which means she cleaned up. She took her socks off and then maybe put her shoes on or maybe put different socks on. But definitely the item that she was wearing was taken off before that camera was taken downstairs and put in the washing machine. And it was put in the washing machine and put through a cycle. Oh, there's this big indication, or there's an indication she could have taken it with her. So what does that mean? It just means it's an alternative. But she has done so much already.
Finish her.
Other things that she has done, according to her, is there was this glass underneath the sink area. And that's the glass that's found on top of Mr. Alexander after she cleaned him up, in the shower. We don't know if the glass was an afterthought or if it was used to actually clean him, but actually shows that she went to the sink, approached his body, and dropped it on top of him. But she cleaned him up, wanted to wash away anything or any contact
You
or
only
anything
answered
that would
yes.
show her being there. Again, we're told about what DNA is and how it's left behind. But if somebody washes it away, it's just not going to be there. And that's another step that she took in staging this scene. She washed away all of her DNA from him. Could have turned on, we don't know if she turned on the shower. We don't know if she used the glass, but we do know that she cleaned up. And it isn't because she loved Mr. Alexander that she cleaned him up. Oh, it isn't that she wanted him to look good, even though he, with all due respect, he looked a little bit crunched up there. It wasn't that. The net effect of what she did is to destroy any of her DNA. She washed it off. That's what people do when they want things that, such as items off their hands, they wash out. And that's what she did. And then we don't know what was in the middle of the bathroom that was causing her concern. But we know that she focused in on the bathroom area as well as near the closet. Again, we don't know exactly what was there. Perhaps that's where she dropped the knife and she needed to clean the knife there, because we know that the knife was cleaned. We know that the knife was not left behind. So again, there's this directed behavior with regard to the knife. Had the knife been dripping blood, and remember, she had just stuck it into his neck. Had that been happening, and had she been in this hysterical sort of mood that she wants you to believe, it's fair to say that that knife would have been bloody, she would have dropped blood along the way. No, she carried it out. She wants you to believe that she may have carried it down to the dishwasher. If she did carry it down to the dishwasher, which the state disputes, but we can use that for demonstrative purposes to show that knife, if it was carried downstairs, either had to be cleaned up upstairs or wrapped in something like a towel, which shows again directed behavior, so that no blood got on any of the stairs. Didn't get anywhere else. So if she says, which is what she said, sort of alluded to, that maybe that's what she did with the knife, because no knife was found up there, and we do know that a knife was used in this attack. If she did that, she did something with the knife. She either cleaned it, stuck it in her purse, or according to her, even if you put it in the dishwasher, but you can't be sure about that, the behavior before the movement of the knife shows that she's thinking this whole thing.
Not one actual tear.
You step back and you say, what was she thinking at the time? Well,
not a redder face.
She was thinking of staging
not a
the
red
scene,
nose.
cleaning it. That's what she was doing.
Not a red eye.
She cleaned the body of any DNA. She cleaned the area where it appears some of the attack occurred. The other implement, the knife, that was cleaned because it wasn't found or dripping anywhere.
That would not.
The gun, well, it was taken. The clothing that she had on her, specifically the footwear that you
Also,
see
I agree.
in Exhibit 162, that wasn't found anywhere. There was no bloody spots anywhere. And even the towels that were upstairs, if you remember, there was one towel missing from the set, was taken down and placed inside of the washing machine, and the cycle was run. It appears that the cycle was run with Clorox. And what's significant about that is that, yes, it's significant that Clorox was used, but what's also significant about it is that the hands were clean at the time that Clorox was grabbed, because otherwise you would have seen the handle with blood on it, you would have seen blood all over the washer. You didn't see that. She had already cleaned up upstairs, and she was cleaning up because she did not want to get caught. And it was actually, as plans go, pretty good, except for the photographs. So she's now staged the scene. She's now cleaned up. There has been days of premeditation, but if you just take the scene itself, and we will discuss the jury instruction that tells you that it just requires a space of time. And killing somebody 3 times over has built into it a space of time, irrespective of which event you think happened first or happened last. It's the state's position that the stabbing happened first because of the forensic evidence and the blood spatter evidence that's upstairs. Either way, she killed him 3 times over. She stabbed him in the heart. He would die from that. Certainly the throat was immediately fatal, and the gunshot would also have been fatal. So there is this premeditation aspect. And so she staged the scene at that point. Then she did some other things that were equally as interesting. And by interesting, I mean demonstrative of how well she was thinking at the time. She claims that she was in this sort of foggy state. She wasn't in such a foggy state that she couldn't put the license plate back on the car that she was driving on the back. She was in a hurry and put it on upside down, but she had already taken it off before and remembered to put it back on, such that she drove all the way to Utah that way and was stopped in West Jordan, Utah.
Prison.
So yeah, she was thinking there. She wasn't driving without a license plate, because police officers would have stopped you quicker without a license plate than one upside down. So thinking there. The other thing is she packed up the clothing that she was wearing. It was bloody. The socks included. Packed all of that up and took them with her. Cameras, her purse, the gun, all of that. She was cleaning it up, staging it up for the police, so that when the police went up there, they wouldn't even know what was going on. Got in the car, did all the cleaning, and was sure and careful not to get it anywhere other than the bathroom. Walked out, and then on that hot summer June 4th, got into the car, left Napoleon behind, and started to drive away after putting the license plate on the car. And according to her, at some point, filling up with gas from the gas cans. If you're in such a fog, how can you even remember that you have gas cans? How can you possibly even remember that you have a gas can if you've never done it before? And she, according to her, this is not something that she did on the usual basis.
Objection.
Overruled. The jury is directed to recall the evidence.
And away she goes down the road until, according to her, she stops on the side of the road, starts calling Ryan, and continues her lies. Starts calling Ryan and gave a story about where she had been. She lied to him. She wanted to continue that, speaking with him, because he could potentially say, well, no, she was with me. She was somebody that was with me at the time. So again, she's continuing to stage the scene for the police. What else does she do? If she didn't think that she had killed him, then why is it that she's calling and leaving a voicemail message as soon as she possibly can? Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't stop. If she was really in this state of fogginess, you would have heard some mumbling, or she wouldn't have been able to work the prompts on the phone. But she was able, according to her, keep going back and try to do the message. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many times did she say? Many, many times. She said she tried to do that. That shows some clarity of thought. And of course, though, she wants you to believe that there was no clarity of thought. She wants to manipulate you, wants to continue to lie. Why send an email? If you really didn't know what had happened, why send an email? Why not call the police? And why continue on your journey to make it seem normal? Why continue to make it seem normal? As if nothing had happened. The reason that you do that is because you had it planned. Ryan Burns was nothing more than her alibi. She showed, maybe he was a little bit more because of the interest that she showed. But she calls him up, makes up this story about where the cell phone has been, and continues on to Utah into his waiting arms. Gosh, you could almost hear the violins making their sound. And she goes up to him, gives him that first kiss. Isn't that romantic? And then later on, as they kiss passionately after going out, and she adjusts him, whatever that may mean, although according to her, he's full of crap. Anybody that doesn't agree with her, oh, they're full of crap. Those are her words from the witness stand. He's wrong. And he's not telling the truth according to her. He doesn't have anything to gain. But he does tell you that, yes, they were involved, and they were involved in a sexual fashion when she gets up there. What a wonderful reunion. What a wonderful time it must have been for her. And so then, there's this talk that she has with her friend Leslie Udy. And she begins to talk about the future with Mr. Alexander in it. How
I don't know.
Mr. Alexander, that is going to be with her in the future after he's married and he has kids. She's married, she has kids. The children are going
It's
to
been
play together.
84 years.
Absolutely. Staging the scene again, continually staging the scene so that if the police start making inquiries, guess what? Well, she didn't know he was dead. Boy, she was just normal with me, Mr. Brandi said. Or Leslie, she was talking about the future. Again, she's just staging the scene after what she has done. At the restaurant that they go to, there's this talk about her hands, and she, again, makes up a story as to how she got the injury to her hand, even though it's from the knife slipping as she was knifing Mr. Alexander to death. And then afterwards, her friend, Dan Freeman, calling her on the telephone and telling her, oh, his body has been found. And she crying and calls the bishop, trying to determine whether or not he was alive. What an absolute facade. She's creating a wall of excuses, a wall of absolute, what appears to be
not one tear, not one actual tear.
No one can say that she had
Myself
anything to
anymore.
do with this because she's acting the part and she's lying. She's making it all up. She has lied to everybody and she has staged the scene. She staged the scene of the murder. And then she came into court and during these proceedings has staged her defense. And she staged her defense by lies. And the lies that she told were to a number of people and to various groups of people. First of all, let's start with you. Perhaps it may be that in court, because of the admonition and standing in front of the clerk, that somehow that would bring out the truth, because after all, this is a truth-finding sort of proceeding. Well, let's start with some of the examples that we can talk about that we know that she lied to you about. This issue about the gas cans. Absolutely, without a shadow of doubt, she's a liar. And she's a liar about, number one, that she returned it to Walmart. And she's a liar about the fact that she didn't have them with her in Salt Lake City. It's just a lie. And the reason she's lying is that explains why there are no receipts here in Arizona. And that also goes to premeditation. She planned to come and kill Mr. Alexander with that .25 caliber and that knife from May 28th on. That's what the evidence shows.
He's
One of
not
the things that
getting
you can
any
say to
Emmy, I
yourself,
can tell you
well,
that much.
you don't have any direct evidence of that. That's true. We have circumstantial evidence. And circumstantial evidence is a fact that you can deduce from looking at the circumstances as opposed to direct evidence, which is visual or hearing, sensory kind of evidence. The best example that I can give you about the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence and how it applies in this particular case is that if you are at a beach, it doesn't matter what beach it is, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, and you're there by yourself, and you're standing there and you're watching the waves come in. As you stand there from your left, somebody walks by and then goes to your right. A minute or so later, somebody else comes to you and says, has there anybody else been on this beach? And you can say, sure, I just saw him walk by. That's direct evidence. Well, contrast that with circumstantial evidence. You are at the same beach. You have not seen anybody go by. You have not seen any fingerprints. You haven't seen anything. And you decide that it's a nice day and you're going to close your eyes. You have your Wayfarer sunglasses on. You have your towel out. You're going to lay down and you close your eyes for exactly, let's say, a minute. And before you closed your eyes, you noticed that there were no footprints here, no footprints in front of you, and no footprints there. And the ocean's not coming up to you. Close your eyes and you wake up, and when you, for those 45 seconds or so, and then you look, and to your left is a set of human footprints. You see it goes right in front of you, and then it goes by. You didn't hear anything, you didn't see anything. Somebody else comes up to you, or the same person comes up to you and says, has there been anybody here at the beach? You didn't see anybody and you didn't hear anybody, but you can say yes. And the reason that you can say yes is because of the footprints that you saw after you woke up. And the same thing here. There are many footprints to this premeditation
500
aspect.
downloads.
One of the footprints that we have is up
92
in
rating,
Eureka, California,
4.8.
after the May
Check
26th,
us out.
2008 argument where he tells her, you're the worst thing that ever happened to me. Then you have her stealing the gun, or the gun is stolen, and it's a .25 caliber that's actually found at the scene. After that, you have her borrowing some gas cans, and then you have her lying about those gas cans. And then you have her lying about the license plate, and you have her turning off her phone so that she can't be found in Arizona. And then you have the photographs, and you have the rest of the evidence in this case. She premeditated the murder in this case. The other thing that we need to talk about in terms of what she told you that is not true is why she rented the car in Redding. She said, oh, that's the place that Priceline would give her the best deal. But you saw the receipts, not the receipts, but the statement from Washington Mutual that indicated that, hey, she paid directly to budget. So that wasn't a Priceline thing. She looked at each and every one of you, and that's what she told you. Well, that's because, of course, she's innocent. And you as a jury are not going to convict her, right? The other thing that she talked to you about was this injury to her finger. She said that she showed you the finger and she demonstrated it to you. And she said that Mr. Alexander had been the person that actually had done that to her. Well, if you remember during cross-examination, when she was being asked about what happened in her killing of Mr. Alexander, the question was, well, you really didn't get any injuries. I mean, aside from the injury to the head, you remember? That's all that you got there. And then she said, oh no, I also got the injury to my finger. Do you remember her saying that? In a moment of candor, in a moment when she wasn't quite expecting it, she said, yes, that's when it happened. Yet then she turns around and says later, no, that's not how I got it. I got it working for Casa Ramos, Margaritaville. I got it at his house. Who knows? But she looked at you straight in the face about an
Check, please.
event that occurred at the time of the killing. And she looked you in the face, every single one of you, after taking the oath, and lied to you. Maybe this law of attraction, maybe something else, maybe that will explain it, or maybe her experts will explain these three areas that you know were made up. She just made them up to you. And why did she make them up? Because although she says no jury will convict her, it's because she's attempting to get you or manipulating you to get to that particular point. One of the other things that perhaps we need to look at or talk about is their experts. And with regard to their experts, and with regard to the defense that's presented, one of the things that perhaps you can sort of allude to and maybe make reference to when you're looking at this particular defense is by reference to Elizabeth Barrett Browning in a sonnet, where she indicated that, and again, it's just a reference to it, how do I love thee, let me count the lies. It's a little bit of a reference to it, but that's not exactly what she said. But really, how do I love thee, let me count the lies. Well, we've counted 3 so far that in this court, looking at each of you, she said that. What else can we look at? Well, perhaps we can look at the motivation, or perhaps we can look at people that have testified on her behalf, and maybe we can understand what's going on. We can talk, for example, about Alice Laviolette. She's the person who has a master's, who came in and has been doing this for a long time. And one of the things that Alice Laviolette has, and she has an extensive CV or resume, is one of the things she hasn't included in there is that she is also a liar. That is just the bottom line. She came in here and she told you in response to one of your questions about whether or not she had ever testified on behalf of a male in court. And she said 1 or 2 times. Remember that? And when she was pressed by the prosecutor during cross-examination, well, who are they? Couldn't give me the name. Give me a name. Go ahead, give me a name. Pressed even further, she said, well, I didn't testify. I actually wrote a report. She wanted to make herself more than she really was. She also talked about being a keynote speaker at one of the conferences where was Snow White a battered woman.
Anniversary, Renee. I hope that I can't math. It doesn't matter. It's not that I don't know when I was married, but I hope that I'm there. That's what I hope. Congratulations. Also, congratulations. Make sure you mention it when the time comes. I'll say the same thing. Happy anniversary.
Indicated that she was one of the key speakers there
Looks
at one of those
like we
conferences.
made
And she
it.
wasn't. Her CV indicated that she was on the plenary panel, which is just part of people that go there, and she made a presentation to a smaller group. And just as importantly, with regard to lying and Alice Laviolette, she indicated and tried to justify the defendant's lies for you so that you wouldn't think that they were so bad. She kept saying, well, she lied before, but not afterwards. And we got into this conversation about lying, and Alice Laviolette said, well, you know, there's such things as white lies. Those are okay. See, you don't understand. For her and for the defendant, white lies. White lies. They're okay. And if it's to her benefit to say that something is a white lie, she will say that it is a white lie. And in this case, everything that's negative towards the defendant, and it is untruthful, well, that's just a white lie, according to Alice Laviolette. And to her, that's okay. Probably it's okay to Alice Laviolette because she herself wasn't truthful to you. It's one thing to be.
Sorry, I'm going to pause for a second. What? How are you good? Listen, there's real reasons for breaking up. I'm sure that they have them, but he is the greatest showman. End of story.
Be mistaken in a report. It's another thing to look at you as an expert.
That's a great question.
Trying to provide guidance and say,
Keeps going. Needs to land the
yes, I
plane.
have testified on behalf of men before, and then going back and saying,
But I am
no,
impressed
that's not
that he's
true.
used no notes
Measure
at all.
But maybe that's a guide to the defendant. Maybe that's something that she believes. Maybe that's
not
something
the
that
right
buttresses
button.
the defendant's case, and Alice Laviolette believes
That is.
that's something that she should do. But what that indicates is that she's nothing more than an advocate. When you begin lying on behalf of the person that you evaluated, when you begin to visit them, when you begin to give them books, when you're with them for 44 hours, that line was crossed. Anything Alice Laviolette said is contaminated. It is foul. It is not something that you should consider, because how much credibility can you give her if she came up here and in advocating that position, she lied to you? Absolutely no worth at all. And then you have Dr. Richard Samuels. And one of the things about this Dr. Samuels was that, and the issue involving lying is, one of the things that he did is that he had trouble with regard to this scoring and rescoring. And there were some issues as to really what the motivation was for the rescoring. Janine DeMarte,
I think
Dr.
Mrs.
Janine
Bruce Graham
DeMarte
would be
indicated
fun,
that, well,
actually.
there's no reason to be rescoring something 3 times unless you perhaps want to change the scores. Or with regard to the MCMI, there's no reason to submit it twice unless perhaps you might want to change the scores. But one of the things that we do know about Dr. Samuels is that he gave the PDS test. And there is no doubt as to that test that the defendant lied. The defendant made it up. There is no truth to the fact that on question 14, number 4, that whatever seminal event that they're talking about, there was never any indication whatsoever that there was a guy and a girl that came in and killed Mr. Alexander. But he based his test on that. And the defense and the questions may be asked about whether or not it involved the attack of a tiger, or if it involved the attack of a bear, or if it involved a gopher. Or it doesn't matter. The bottom line is that it's a lie. Let's say that somebody goes to the doctor, and they go to the doctor and they're talking about some sort of pain that they have. And if they start lying about the pain, isn't the treatment going to be affected by it? How good is the workup going to be if the seminal event that you're there for is a lie? Well, yeah, you can say she suffered trauma. Okay, let's assume that you can go that far and say the PDS does show that she suffered trauma. Well, Which trauma are we talking about? Is it the bear? Is it the tiger? Is it the gopher? Or, in our case, is it the trauma of lying about killing Mr. Alexander? Is that what we're talking about? Or is it the killing of Mr. Alexander that we're talking about? Or, as the other expert, Cheryl Karp, found, was it the trauma of this non-existent domestic violence? The problem is that when you start lying and the experts get involved and they start basing their test on a lie, how valid can the results be? For example, Cheryl Karp found that, yes, she believed it was post-traumatic stress disorder based on many, many events of domestic violence. Yet there are only 4 that were presented to you and never linked to post-traumatic stress disorder. Then there's this test, a PDS, that was taken, and according to Dr. Samuels, he said, you know what? I probably should have re-administered it. In a moment of candor, he said that. And yet he then reversed his position and changed it. But again, what do we have here? Another lie by the defendant. Not only to Dr. Samuels, but also to Dr. Karp or Janine DeMarte, Dr. Janine DeMarte. Either one. You can't have a lot of domestic violence, a little bit of domestic violence. So you have that issue that is sort of floating out there with regard to the experts. The other area that the defendant lied about was the police. Detective Flores? Oh.
Mr. Martinez, you may continue.
We were talking about the litany of the defendant's lies, and we were at a point where we were going to talk about the lies of the police officers. And you've heard so much about that almost there's an effect such as, well, she did it. It's let's accept it and move on. But it is an important factor, not because it is important because she lied, but because of how it fits into her particular plan. And one of the things that we have to think about when we talk about lies is that, and you think about what she told the police officers, is that maybe there was some exaggeration that was going on with regard to what she told the police officer, or maybe there was some minimization that was going on. In terms of exaggeration, one of the points that needs to be made is that Robert Geffner, who was here yesterday talking to you, and said, well, exaggeration really isn't a lie. Well, it is, because it's not the truth. And so some of the things that the defendant told the police officers, somebody may say, well, no, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, maybe it isn't. But at the time that she spoke to the police officers, it had been some time. It was July 15th of 2008 when she was arrested. It had been over a month since she had killed Mr. Alexander. And during that time, she had had time to think about what was going to happen if she spoke to the police. And so it's important from the aspect of somebody who's thinking about it, somebody who is planning. It shows that this individual had the forethought to have a story ready when the police officer came to her. And this individual is of such strong will that even in the face of what the police officer was talking to her about, she would actually not budge initially when she was spoken to by the police officer. For example, one of the things that she was asked on the first interview, well, isn't it true that you were there? And she kept saying, no, I wasn't even there. How could I have possibly done this if I wasn't even there? And then she was asked, well, isn't it true that your fingerprint or your palm, it was actually a palm print, but the fingerprint, isn't it true that the fingerprint and blood was there? And she said, well, of course it's there. I've been there all this time. And so it shows you the adaptability and how nimble this individual is, such that when she gets in any situation, whether it be involving Mr. Alexander or here in court, this individual is quick thinking and is good on her feet. And so that when she's talking to you on cross-examination and you get those answers are designed to manipulate. And so that's why those statements to the police are important, because they show how she can attempt to manipulate things and is able to say whatever fits the story at the time. So initially, when the police came to her, when Detective Flores came to her and asked her, well, this is what we have, let's talk about it. She denied everything. And she kept saying, let me see the photographs. I want to see the photograph. The reason she wanted to see the photographs is because she wanted to conform her story to what the police knew or what she thought the police knew. And in fact, in other conversations, during the telephone conversations, they discussed it. And that just shows you this type of individual that can adapt, if you will, as she's going along with the interview with the police officer. And in asking to see the photographs, it's interesting that she asks that. And the only reason that I mention it is because previously, when I was showing the photographs of the killing of Mr. Alexander, we had the defendant crying. Well, why did you want to see the photographs when the police officer was there? You knew what had happened, and yet she's still asking to see it. Again, it's just another form of manipulation to have you feel some sympathy for her as she sits there with a red nose, face down, apparently crying. But yet she asks the police officer, can I take a look at these photographs? Police officer, of course, did not show her the photograph. So the first story on July 15th wasn't even there. Wasn't even there. Then has overnight to think about it, and on July 16th, changes it to something else because it'll make much more sense. Because now she knows about a little bit about what they have there. She wants to now be able to say that she was there. But what does she do? She says, not just that she was there, but she makes herself the hero, just switching it up. Not only does she say that she was there, but she makes herself the hero in the sense that she pushes the woman down and has the gun pointed to her head and by luck is not killed, but she's able to push people aside, and then she wraps it up by saying, I wish I could have stayed there. I should have fought more. I did fight, but I should have fought more, and then away I went. Again, trying to paint herself, not only that she was there, but again, that she was this hero, attempting to not only tell a different story, but to manipulate that story to make her look better. Years go by, and then we have the story that we have now. This nonstop litany of lies by the defendant just does not stop. She has lied to various groups of people. She has lied, as we said, to you. She has lied to the medical health care professionals. She's lied to the police. And she's even lied to the media, something that she has craved. This individual here craves the media, loves the media, went on national television to talk about this. And what did she do? Not only did she lie to them, but she made herself seem like such a calm person. I wouldn't do that. Didn't tell any of the things that we see here today. And of course, it's not a confessional when you go there, but it is demonstrative of the fact that she's a chameleon, and she'll adjust to the situation and make up whatever stories are appropriate for her at the time, whether it be the media or somebody else. The same can be said is true about her friends, the people that she has, the friendships that she has. She lies to them, and she does things that almost make you step back and say, what could you possibly gain by that? When, for example, she talks to Leslie Udy and makes up this thing about her kids and Mr. Alexander's kids playing together. She didn't have to go that far. The point I'm trying to make is that these lies are lies, but then she goes even further with them just to sell them, to manipulate the person into thinking that they are actually true. For example, with Leslie Udy, she could have just said, oh yeah, I speak to Travis every now and then, but then she adds, oh, but I want our kids to play together. When Dan Freeman called her, well, she didn't have to, after he called her and said, I don't know, what happened, but Travis is dead. She didn't have to then go and talk to the bishop. She does these things because she's such
Yoda, Yoda.
an ornate liar. It just has to add the extras to it to really sell it. And that's what she did for you for all of those times all of those days that she testified to you. And the reason that I bring this ornate storytelling is because it applies to her defense about.
I'm going to bite my
And her
pillow.
defense
It's what
really
I'm gonna
is
do.
based on lies. It really is. And if you can say, for example, she presented it as if it was in self-defense, but not only did she present it as if it were in self-defense, she added some ornate lies to it. For example, one of the things that she added was this physical violence that supposedly Mr. Alexander inflicted upon her. But she doesn't just say that he inflicted these 4 incidents of violence. She goes into great detail about it. For example, she talks about the one in August of 2007 where he goes upstairs and he's banging his head up against the wall, just very flowery, very out there, because then she's again the center of attention. She's being the calm one. She's being the person that is the individual that you would look to for the answers. It's not just the lies. She's a very good liar, but she, on top of that, is a very sophisticated liar in the sense that she adds these extra elements to it. And she did that with regard to the acts of domestic violence. And they are lies. If we are to look at her journals and sit back and take a look at what she writes, those journals tell you that there were no acts of domestic violence. Have you been given any reason whatsoever, other than this law of attraction, and other than another Alex Laviolette, somebody who has trouble with the truth, other than that, vouching for them, do you have any reason to doubt what is being written there? Do you have anything that the defendant has said that has corroborated in terms of the domestic violence? You have the journal entries indicating that they did not happen. You have friends indicating that they never saw it. You don't have any medical reports, any police reports. You don't have anything. And as we get talking about these, there are lies, and then there are monumental, huge lies. And she made this up because that fit her defense. And one of the other things that she did with regard to this is that not only did she make up this lie for her defense, the other thing that she did is that she created a lie that really involves behavior that is a hot button kind of topic. How horrific it is to be accused falsely of being a pedophile. He's not here. He's not here to say, no, that's not true. She can say to Alice Laviolette that it was on the computer, the images, but then Alice Laviolette comes in and says, no, that's not what she told me. But remember, Alice Laviolette has a problem with the truth. And so Snake goes to the computer and doesn't find anything there. Oh, no, I changed my mind. It was actually images that were like this. How does one defend that when there are no images there? The police looked to the attic. The police looked everywhere. How absolutely hateful that allegation is, and how absolutely extensive she was with it. But remember I said that she went a little too far with these lies? First of all, her journal indicates that there wasn't such an event. Second of all, the text messages also indicate the same thing. And what human being, if that is the allegation, if they really are caring, what human being doesn't go to the police and say, or somebody else, this person is a pedophile? For her, instead what she does is she says, no. And she talks about all these phone calls going back and forth, and that also doesn't match. What she does, well, it's the new approach. It's the new approach to pedophilia. What does she do? Well, let's jump in the sack. That's what we're going to do. At least that's what she tells you now. But with regard to Alice Laviolette, no, she didn't. She can't even keep that together. If that is the truth, and if that is what happened,
of a fun show,
wouldn't you expect that her journal, if she had it, if she didn't write about it, at least wouldn't have said that nothing noteworthy has happened? She has gone too far, at least with regard to that particular allegation. And at least in this allegation, it is fortunate that the police did have Mr. Alexander's laptop, and there weren't any images of children on it, none whatsoever. They checked throughout the house. There was nothing inside of the house that indicated anything like that. There weren't any photographs. There wasn't anything. And so this allegation of hers, whether it was on the computer or whether it was in photograph form, just went a little bit too far. This these lies to take from Mr. Alexander. The only thing that he has left, his reputation, it's just a little bit too much to, in light of what we know, in light of what she says, it's just too much even in this particular case. It is a hateful allegation with nothing to support it. But can you imagine what goes through somebody's head when they hear it for the first time? That person does not deserve justice. That person doesn't deserve anything because of what he did. It's so easy for her to make these allegations. It's so easy for her to get on the witness stand, as you've seen, and lie. And this is really the pinnacle. It doesn't get any higher or worse or lower, whatever way you want to look at it, than that. Well, how do you judge that allegation? Well, the judge has. How do you judge these sorts of allegations? Well, just like everything in this case, there are rules. And those rules are the jury instructions, such as the ones that have been read to you today. And one jury instruction particularly deals with this aspect. It's the credibility of witnesses instruction. I know the judge has read it, but because it's so important, it is worth my referencing it because it directly relates
reading rules.
to the two primary allegations in this case, that of physical abuse and the fact that Mr. Alexander was interested in little boys and girls, according to her. It tells you that in deciding the facts of this case, you should consider what testimony to accept and what to reject. What it's telling you there is that you ultimately decide whether or not this person here, who is the epitome of a liar, whether this individual, what you're going to accept or reject what she tells you. Are you going to pick and choose some things of what she says and then accept some other things? How is it that you can know with any certainty whatsoever whether or not she's telling the truth about anything? It says you may accept everything a witness says, or part of it, or none of it. The state submits to you that you are, based on what you've seen, based on what you've heard, and based on the testimony of others, that you should accept none of it. It doesn't mean that the 18 days that she was on the witness stand are wasted. No. What that means is that you're finally able to see this individual in the light of day. You're able to see how she reacts. You're able to see that when push comes to shove, she'll look each and every one of you in the eye and lie. Doesn't matter where. And this instruction then goes on and says, in evaluating testimony, you should use the tests for truthfulness that people use in determining matters of importance in everyday life. Important matters. What kind of matters would those be? Medical care. Would you, anybody, not you, but anybody, go to a doctor who has lied to them consistently about major aspects of their life? No, people will not go to a doctor who lies to them. And the factors that you are to consider are the witness's ability to see or hear or know things the witness testified to. If we're talking about the defendant, she was there, she knows. The quality of the witness's memory. The quality of her memory is incredible, absolutely incredible, down to follicles of hair, unless it hurts her. Then the fog rolls in. Then there's an excuse. Then there's a reason why she doesn't remember. She has an incredible memory, all right, when it comes to lying.
Sure went from sad to pissed.
And the witness's manner while testifying, how it was that she testified, how it was that the defendant testified. Well, you saw her at times attempt to cry. You saw her at times get angry. You saw her at other times just sullenly stand there. And you saw her at times when the questions were getting difficult, snap out and try to somehow make the person that was asking the questions the villain, saying, well, you're scrambling my brain. It's not my fault. Again, it's not my fault. It's the fact that you're asking me these questions, just like Travis. That's exactly what's going on here. So that's not my fault that I keep lying here on the witness stand. It's yours. Because of the way you're asking me the questions, the fact that you're raising your voice, that's whose fault it is. And that's why I can snap at you from the witness stand, I can smirk at you from the witness stand and look knowingly towards the jury, because not her fault. It's the person who's asking the questions. Whether or not the witness had a motive, bias, or prejudice, if there is any witness in this case who had a motive to lie, it's this defendant. She's the person that's charged. All of the other witnesses that came here, some of them had a motive. For example, Alice Laviolette, she had a motive to lie. I mean, maybe perhaps it was her reputation that she was interested in, or things like that. All the other individuals, for example, Ryan Burns, why would he want to lie about anything? He lives in Utah. He just met her at one time. There's no reason to believe that he was going to be making these things up. Amanda Webb, why would she want to come in here after all the work that she's done and make things up? The only person with a motive is the defendant. So when evaluating her testimony, that's something that you need to consider. When it's to her benefit, she's going to lie. Whether the witness, the defendant, was contradicted by anything the witness said or wrote before trial. Well, she wrote, for example, in terms of these two allegations involving the pedophilia and involving the domestic violence, that they didn't happen. Additionally, she never told anybody. And the reports out there, if there aren't any reports that would corroborate what she said. So in terms of the pedophilia, well, she says it was on the computer. Well, the computer doesn't show that. And they even went back and looked and traced and looked everywhere. The house, there was no implements, if you will, or anything associated with that kind of conduct. And so in this case, nothing supports what the defendant said. And then you're asked to take a look at the reasonableness of her testimony in light of the other evidence. In order for her to prevail in this case, in order for you to believe her, because it actually comes down to whether or not you believe her. If you believe her, then certainly you can apply the jury instructions. But it comes down to whether or not you believe her. The other evidence, all of the other evidence that's out there contradicts her. So you have to go against all of the evidence that's out there, turn your back on all of that and say, I believe her, therefore I'm going to find in her favor. State submits to you that in light of everything, that's not something that you should do. So what standard do you apply? Well, the standard that you apply is the burden of proof instruction, which tells you proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you firmly convinced of the defendant's guilt. Firmly convinced is the term. Not any of the other terms that you may have heard anywhere else in life. It's just firmly convinced. And it does tell you there are very few things in this world that we know with absolute certainty. So absolute certainty is not required. And it does say that in criminal law that the law does not require proof that overcomes every doubt. That's not what we're talking about here. You just need to be firmly convinced. If, based on your consideration of the evidence, you are firmly convinced that the defendant is guilty of the crime charged, you must find her guilty. That's how it reads, and that's the procedure that you indicated that you would follow should you be chosen to go back there to resolve this case. Once you make that inquiry, and once you find the defendant guilty, that's the end of the inquiry. The other language that falls after that involves you finding reasonable doubt. But if you find, based on your consideration of the evidence, that you are firmly convinced, that's the end of the inquiry. You don't need to go any further. And there is only one charge in this case. And the charge is first-degree murder. And first-degree murder can be committed in one of two ways. Obviously, you know this, that there is not two charges of first-degree murder, there is only one. But there are different ways in which these can be committed. First is premeditated murder, or second is felony murder. With regard to premeditated murder, there are lesser included offenses, as the jury instructions have told you. There are other offenses, not necessarily lesser, but other offenses that are involved. With regard to felony murder, there are no lesser included offenses. So for example, if you are considering felony murder, there are no other offenses that are to be considered. The only issue with regard to felony murder is whether or not in the course of a felony, she killed him. That's basically what the law says. And if you find that, that's the end of the inquiry. You don't consider lesser included offenses. Premeditated murder does have these lesser offenses. But in terms of the tabulation that takes place at the end, for example, 9 of you could find that this was premeditated murder, 3 of you could find that this was felony murder, and it's still first-degree murder. You do not have to be unanimous as to the theory involving the murder. Or you could be 6 and 6, or it could be 12 for premeditated murder and 12 for felony murder. It's still only one charge. You do not have to be unanimous as to the theory of the crime. And let's talk about premeditated murder. Well, it requires that it be proven that the defendant caused the death of another person. Well, exhibit number 207, he's dead. That element is proven. Well, the defendant intended or knew that she would cause the death of another person. That's also proven. One of the things that we know in this particular case is that, amongst other things, she slit his throat, she stabbed him in the heart, and we also know that she shot him. There are 3 different ways that she killed him. So did she intend? Sure. Did she know? Absolutely knew. Remember, I was talking about how directed it was to the throat. If you do that, then you know, anybody knows, that if you do that to the neck, you're going to kill somebody. So she both intended it or knew. In other words, it could be either or. In this case, she knew. And also intended it based on what we see in this particular case. So those elements are satisfied in this case. There is no doubt about that those 2 elements are satisfied. Now the issue is whether or not she acted with premeditation. And premeditation means that a defendant intended to kill another human being, and then there's the disjunctive or knew. It doesn't say the defendant intended to kill another human being, and then it stops. It says intended to kill another human being or knew she would kill another human being. That is the element that's above in number 2. She knew that she was going to kill him. There's 3 different ways that she killed him. One of those 3 satisfies this, knew she would cause the death of another.
Happy birthday. You know what? Everybody sing it together. Everybody, all 74, all of y'all. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Teresa. That's your YouTube lane name, but I don't actually know if it's the real one. Happy birthday to you. And
Another person. And after forming that knowledge, after knowing that she was going to kill him, because it talks about intending or knowledge, after knowing, after forming that intent or knowledge, reflected on the decision before killing. And the key here is, what is reflection? What does that mean? And it defines it for you. It tells you that it is this reflection regardless of the length of time in which it occurs. That distinguishes first-degree murder from second-degree murder. What that is telling you is that you don't have to have a month of thinking about it or knowing about it. You don't have to have a week. between the thinking and knowing and the killing, you don't even have to have a day between the thinking and the knowing. You just have to have a length of time regardless of the length. So it can be very short. It can be as short as stabbing him in the shower and then after a couple of minutes, chasing him down and going for the throat. No one can dispute that he walked that way to get away from her. No one can dispute that he was already injured. He was already going to die. When this was applied, by this I mean the strike to the throat, she knew he was already going to die, but that type of injury indicates you want that person to die. Additionally, when she shot him in the head, although he was already dead, that also indicates that she wanted him to die. It does say that while reflection is required for first-degree murder, the time needed for reflection is not necessarily prolonged. Again, it's telling you it doesn't have to be days, it doesn't have to be hours, it doesn't even have to be minutes. And then it tells you
we're going to go just a little bit later. I think at the end of this video, which is
and the
14 minutes more
of killing may be very short. In this case, I guess it depends on who you ask. This was a long period of time for Mr. Alexander to be going through this.
Or have it?
Just a long period of time between the stab wounds to the heart and the shower when he was defenseless to the time that he was trying to get away and going along the wall and absolutely falling down. So in this case, it can be very short. She killed him 3 different ways. She knew that she was going to kill him. Additionally, not only that, she brought the implements. She brought the gun. If she didn't bring the gun and it was Mr. Alexander's, then you have a burglary. And that implicates felony murder. Because she came and she took his gun. If what you're saying is that she stole his gun, did she have his permission to take that gun? According to her, it was his gun. If she took his gun, then that's a burglary. And if during the burglary somebody dies, i.e. stealing the gun, then that's premeditated murder. Either way you look at it. But we'll talk about that in a little bit more. And an act is not done with premeditation if it is the instant effect or a sudden quarrel or heat of passion. How do you know if it was or wasn't the instant effect of a sudden quarrel or heat of passion? Well, you can take a look at some of the photographs that we have, and they will tell you that it wasn't the instant effect of a sudden quarrel or heat of passion. 160 tells you, does that guy look like he's ready to fight? That guy looks like he's ready to fight? And who's telling us that this is the instant effect of a sudden quarrel or heat of passion? A liar is somebody who is telling us that. A liar who was dressed at the time. A liar who was poised to strike. If she didn't have a plan, why does she have her clothes on? Why does she need to have her clothes on? And why is it that the gun is with her? She says, oh no, the gun belonged to Mr. Alexander. But if you remember on June 10th of 2008, she called unsolicited to this police officer and said to him, oh no, Travis never had a gun. Travis never had a gun. The only thing that he had were his fists. So, yeah, and you have that on tape. There is no doubt that she said it. In fact, there is a tape that says, Jodi Arias' number is whatever it was, and you heard her voice. And you also heard her saying, he did not have a gun. At that time of the investigation, she didn't know how important it was going to be. She didn't know what lies she was going to be telling in the future. She said he did not have a gun. So if he didn't have a gun, she brought it. And you know that she did bring it. You know about the supposed burglary of her grandparents' house. And so she says that in order for you to believe that this was a sudden quarrel or heat of passion, you have to say to yourself, well, you know, she called the police on her own and she lied to him, but since she's been such a liar and she lied to us in this courtroom, I'm now going to decide to believe her when she makes up a story and says, oh, his father gave it to her. And in addition to that, I'm going to have to believe that the shooting did not occur in the closet as she told Alice Laviolette, because that's what she told Alice Laviolette, the person who took the stand. Isn't that what she told Alice Laviolette? Do you remember what Alice Laviolette testified? That that's what she told her. And in fact, there was a recording of the conversation between the prosecutor and her at an interview that took place in November of last year, in which you heard her say, oh yeah, she told me that the shooting happened in the closet. You're going to have to disregard all of that so that you can even get to the sudden quarrel or heat of passion. That's the problem for the defendant. Are you going to be willing to do that? Especially when the police have looked in that place and there wasn't anything indicating that there were any bullets there. There's nothing to indicate that he had any cleaning supplies. Nothing to indicate that there was a gun. The other thing that is problematic that it would allow you to reach that is the shelves. You would have to, you know the shelves, you've seen what the shelves look like, those shelves that were in the corner, and by her own admission, she stepped on the second shelf as she was going to get the gun. You saw what happens to those shelves when you put a little bit of pressure. They move down this way. And you saw the photographs, there was nothing that was the shoes that were there. There was nothing that looked that there had been any activity there. Everything, the photographs, the forensic evidence, her statement says that there was no sudden quarrel or heat of passion because she brought the gun. You would have to, again, throw aside everything else she has said to find that there was an instant effect of a sudden quarrel or heat of passion in this case. What do you want to do as you sit back and deliberate? What do you want to do with one of the first conversations that she ever has with the police before she knows what the issues are and says, you didn't have a gun? What possible reason or justification can she give you to say at that time, I lied to him, why? Well, she said before, well, I was afraid initially. She said when she spoke to the officer back on July 15th, that's why I made that first story. Then the second story, well, I was trying to not get in trouble. But those weren't present. Those reasons were not present on June 10th of 2008 when she called this detective unsolicited to talk. It's because she wanted to learn about what the police knew so that she could incorporate it in her story should something come up. But with the truth, you ain't got to remember nothing. And she forgot about some things and made that statement involving the gun. And that's problematic for her. It will stay as part of this record, and it will require you to sit back there and listen to that and say, you know what? She was lying there instead of telling the truth there. And that would require you to disregard the fact that a 25 caliber handgun was taken during a supposed burglary of her grandparents' house. And that was the gun that was used to kill her. The issue of the gun will not go away, especially since she said that he didn't have one, especially since she also indicated that there was a circuitous route through the closet, especially when she could have just walked out. The guy's naked. He's not going to run after her outside naked. And then indicating that she came through the closet, shoots him in the closet, according to some accounts, shoots him
Not wrong.
outside of the closet in the bathroom, and grabs a gun that she believes is unloaded. If she believes the gun is unloaded, what is she going to do with it? Throw it at him? Why stand there with the gun if you know it's unloaded? None of it. Absolutely none of it is true. You could even be charitable and say it doesn't make sense. I'm not asking you to be charitable. It's an absolute lie of this issue about the gun. She said it, and she is wedded to it.
Oh, he has a script.
I won't even discuss the lesser included offenses because of the issue involving the gun. She
There's
brought it
nothing I
herself.
love better than somebody having a script but not
Felony
using it.
murder requires the
As a
state to
public
prove two
speaking
things.
professor.
The
love
first
it.
one is that the defendant committed or attempted to commit a
You
burglary
know he practiced
in the
in front of his
second degree.
mirror.
What is a burglary in the second degree? And notice it says attempted or committed the burglary.
I don't like how thick that section is, though.
The
But he still has to go.
crime of burglary in the second degree requires the defendant, in this case, to enter or remain unlawfully in or on a residential structure. We don't know if she was invited in. We really don't know if she was invited in at all. So, but did she remain unlawfully? I think it's not a stretch to say that an individual who owns a home and is being stabbed to death, that the person that's doing the stabbing there no longer is entitled to remain lawfully in that house. No, I may be charitable, I may be a nice guy, but you know what? If you start stabbing me, you're no longer here lawfully. That consent to come in is no longer there. If you keep stabbing me, that's it. It is not a stretch of the imagination to say that. And we understand, the state understands that Mr. Alexander is not here to say, I revoked my consent. But if he's being stabbed, if he's having his throat slashed, and if he's being shot, it's not a stretch to say, based on circumstantial evidence, to say that she remained unlawfully. So she has remained there unlawfully. Is it a residential structure? It absolutely is. So that's his house. And she did so with the intent to commit any theft. Well, at some point she stole the gun, according to her, or a felony therein. You can bet that stabbing somebody is a felony. So
And
he
boom
doesn't
goes
want
the
you to be
dynamite.
there, and you're stabbing him, and you're killing him. That's a felony. So the elements of burglary have been satisfied. So we go back to the first crime, and it says the defendant committed or
Your
attempted
mother
to
was a
commit burglary in the
hamster,
second
and your
degree.
father
Yes,
smelt
he did
of
accomplish the
elderberry.
burglary. So that element is satisfied. Number two, in the course and furtherance of committing this burglary that we know that she committed, or immediate flight from it, in other words, she took off and she took his gun. So that's the theft right there. And it's part of that, even if it wasn't her fault. Even if it wasn't her fault, the defendant caused the death of another person. If you are committing,
Overruled.
the defendant caused the death of another person. And she did cause the
I don't know
death
about that, Kurt.
of Mr. Alexander
I
during
really
this burglary.
about that.
She took off, and she took off with his gun after stabbing him. So she has committed murder in the first degree under both theories. It isn't just one theory that she has committed this crime under. And so now you're left with the decision that you have to make. The one admonition that I leave you with is that these jury instructions are not advisory. They are mandatory. And it's a situation where you go back there and you read them. And as you sit back and you decide this case and you attempt to reconcile the lies with what actually happened, keep in mind that the defendant has attempted to manipulate you, has attempted to paint the picture for you. For example, something like this.
1300s.
This is what she wants you to believe. Something like that. There's Mr. Alexander and her. That's what she wants you to think. That's what the feeling that she wants you to have. But actually, reality is this. That's really what we're talking about in this case. That's his back, not his throat. You've seen his throat already. And that's really the reality in this case. And as you consider this case, and as you ponder your decision, one of the things that I want you to consider that is symbolic of this whole case is that this issue involving the gas cans. What she wants you to do, because you know it's a lie, what she wants you to do is disregard it. But symbolically speaking, when she asks you to disregard it, what she wants you to do is she wants you to carry those gas cans for her. She wants you to help her fill them with gas. That's what she wants you to do, symbolically speaking. What the state is asking you to do is to not leave this courtroom filled with the stench of gasoline on your hands. That's what we are asking you to do, because it's not true.
I think how he summarized
Talk to you
it
about
down
this,
to
these
gas
gas
can.
cans. It's not true that she returned them, but she's asking you to help
No.
her. She's asking you symbolically, help her by carrying them out and taking those cans with you. What the state is asking you to do is your duty. And the judge has indicated that your duty is to follow the law as she's given it to you and apply it to the facts. And in asking that, the state is asking you that you return a verdict of guilty, and that you return a verdict of guilty as to first-degree murder, not only as premeditated murder, but also as to felony murder, for no other reason than it's your duty and the facts and the law support it. Thank you.
What? It was a good ending. It was a good ending. It was decent. It was as good as one could do. Appropriate. Well, everybody, thanks for hanging in there with me. I know we went a little bit later by 20 minutes. I appreciate your support, all of your support. I've said this already, but we sure as hell couldn't do it without you. I want you guys to have a good weekend. Come back on Monday and have a wonderful story. Do something. Get out there. Unless you're not feeling it, and that's okay too. Happy birthday, Teresa. Elizabeth, we're thinking about you. Whatever you need, let us know. Jaded, whatever you need, let us know. If there's anybody else who's having a celebration of some sort, let us know. Pop it in the jury room or Discord, or you can let us know via DM, either me or the mods. If you're having a hard time, feel free to reach out. I'm not a specialist, but I can listen. My ears are decent. A lot of people say that I talk a lot. Surprise, surprise. But I think I'm decent at listening. So if you need something, let me know. Anyways, thank you all so much for being here and hanging out later than usual on a Friday. I appreciate it. Court's adjourned. That being said, as I always say, take care of yourself, take care of your friends and your family. Don't forget to smile. As Pantuflay says, don't let anybody dull your sparkle. And shine on. Shine on, you crazy diamonds. Best community on YouTube. Don't care what anybody says. I'll fight them. Good night, everybody. Have a good weekend. I'll see you on Monday.